Chapter 1804. Whose head? Mr. Wushuang. The formation is controlled by these formation pearls. 50,000 years ago, when the formation first blended in the space-time storm, the power wasn't strong. But as time went by, the formation became more and more ferocious. Now, it has even become the biggest reliance of Green Fire World, and also Green Fire World's most lethal tactic, Palace Master Yuan said. Palace Master Yun had been in charge of controlling many formations in Green Fire Palace before the war with Jin Kingdom 50,000 years ago. Until then, Palace Master Yun also knew the changes that the huge formation brought to the entire battlefield the best. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows when he heard what Palace Master Yun said. Jian Wushuang could understand when he had mentioned the biggest reliance, but how had it become a lethal tactic? Mister, you can move your consciousness into the formation pearl to control the formation, Palace Master Yun said. Jian Wushuang nodded and followed Palace Master Yun's instruction. He spread his soul power and moved them into the formation pearls. With the formation pearls, Jian Wushuang quickly took control of the entire formation. The moment he controlled the formation, his heart quivered. Space-time storm. This formation could move about the strength of space-time storm. Jian Wushuang looked surprised. Including the space-time storm around the battlefield, the space-time storm definitely had the power to destroy everything. Previously, Jian Wushuang had thought his master Xian Yi had only created the formation to blend into the space-time storm in order to stop outsiders from enter with the aid of space-time storm. Jian Wushuang had always thought it was so. But then, Jian Wushuang had realized that the formation had already almost taken full control of the space-time storm. With the formation, he could move about the strength of space-time storm. Just how terrifying was the power? Lethal tactic. No wonder it could be referred to as a lethal tactic. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands together. He also understood why Devil Church had had scruples with Green Fire Palace back then. They were worried about the formation. It's a pity that the space-time storm has balanced. Once we use the formation to move about the strength of the space-time storm, it will lose balance entirely. By then, it will destroy heaven and death, which means the end of the world. Unless there's a day where the formation can gain full control of the space-time storm completely. However, I wonder how long it will take until there's that level of control, Jian Wushuang muttered. Palace Master Yun by the side also said the formation has yet to evolve to its maximum. It still has space for improvement. But before that, unless we intend to meet death together with our enemy, we won't use this lethal tactic. Jian Wushuang nodded. Oh, yeah, Mr. Wushuang. As you are controlling the formation, you can look at the battlefield via the formation. Take a closer look. You might be surprised. Palace Master Yun smiled mysteriously. Surprised? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had been wandering in eternal chaotic world for so long, and he was even listed on Heaven and Earth's Supreme Ranking list. He had even watched a battle between ancient experts. What else could surprise him? With curiosity, Jian Wushuang started looking around. With the formation, Jian Wushuang could immediately see the entire ancient battlefield. The ancient battlefield was vast, boundless. Jian Wushuang reckoned that even if he were to plunge through the battlefield at his full speed without hindrance, he wouldn't be able to make a lap at the border of the battlefield without a few thousand years. In a huge ancient battlefield, there was a ruin with countless bumps and hollows that was filled with ancient yet mysterious aura. It was impressive. The location of Green Fire World is there. Jian Wushuang looked at the corner of a battlefield. When he looked in the direction of it, his facial expression quickly changed. He was originally calm, but he suddenly became shocked and then dumbstruck. In the end, he looked in disbelief. How is this possible? Impossible. Jian Wushuang let out a low bellow. He was an expert on heaven and earth's supreme ranking list, an existence who possessed the fighting power of an emperor god, and he was knowledgeable and experienced. But then he couldn't conceal his astonishment. Not only him, but also king of venomous worms who was in harmony with his mind and blood. He was also dumbfounded. Looking at Jian Wushuang's expression, Palace Master Yun smiled faintly, and he wasn't surprised. In actual fact, anyone who saw the scene in the middle of the battlefield, or maybe the thing, would be astonished. Unbelievable! Jian Wushuang muttered as he gasped a breath of cold air. He saw the entire ancient battlefield through the huge formation. At the same time, he saw Green Fire World that was right in the middle of the ancient battlefield. But Jian Wushuang also saw that there was an unbelievably huge head there clearly. Yes, it was a head. Chapter 1805. The secrets of the ancient time's eyebrows were the concentration point of the practitioner's soul and power. For the ancient god clan, for example, their ancient god stars were gathered in the eyebrows. And Jian Wushuang thought it was absolutely not a coincidence that the Green Fire World was just in between. Maybe the Green Fire World was not born from this ancient battlefield, but from this head, Jian Wushuang thought. Jian Wushuang shook his head, considering his own speculation to be crazy. After a more detailed understanding of the surrounding array, Jian Wushuang turned and left. In a secret room, Jian Wushuang sat alone, flanked by Qin Yu and He Xian. Jian Wushuang took the Blood Mountain sword out. Dao Yuanzi. Jian Wushuang's voice spread into the sword. In the sword, 2 people were suppressed. The 2 men were Dao Yuanzi and the first Sir God. What about other people who had been suppressed by the sword before? They had been killed by Jian Wushuang after being tortured. My devil, please figure out some ways to let us escape from this. The first Sir God cried and screamed. He thought Dao Yuanzi would save him when he was stuck in the sword. Unexpectedly, in the end, even Dao Yuanzi had been suppressed. Shut up, or I will kill you. Dao Yuanzi glanced at the first Sir God indifferently. Actually, Dao Yuanzi didn't care whether his subordinate would survive or not. But Dao Yuanzi did want to escape from here, but he didn't have that capability. Now, his own life was at the mercy of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was so vigilant. He left a soul stamp on my body, and I couldn't escape his control anyway. He still keeps me here and won't allow me to go out. Yuan Daozi complained. As Jian Wushuang had guessed, Dao Yuanzi could not really surrender to him. The reason why Dao Yuanzi had allowed Jian Wushuang to leave the stamp was that there was no other way for him to survive. Dao Yuanzi was an ancient expert with many resources. As long as his strength was restored, he could easily revoke Jian Wushuang's soul stamp so that he could get rid of Jian Wushuang's control and do whatever he wanted. Unfortunately, his tricks didn't work. Jian Wushuang knew his plan and didn't let him go. Dao Yuanzi, hearing Jian Wushuang's voice, Dao Yuanzi was surprised, but immediately responded with a humble and respectful attitude. Is there anything I can do to serve you, my lord? I have something to ask you. You are a strong talent of ancient times, so you must know a lot about the battles of the ancient time. I will answer with everything I know. Dao Yuanzi responded. Jian Wushuang sneered and thought, Dao Yuanzi is really good at flattering. Before he had been suppressed, he had been arrogant without even noticing Jian Wushuang. But now, he had bent down to Jian Wushuang. Don't expect me to release you. Jian Wushuang thought in private, but he didn't show it to Dao Yuanzi. He asked Dao Yuanzi, tell me, what was the cause of the war? This is the question that had haunted Jian Wushuang for a long time. That was a war so destructible that all things, including the most powerful era, had collapsed. What was the reason for that? And Jian Wushuang wanted to know whether it had something to do with his master. However, Dao Yuanzi shook his head and said, "Sorry, my lord." The war broke out suddenly and so quickly that many people, including the strong talents, had no idea of what happened, and I only had a tiny role in that battle. So, I really don't know the answer. Jian Wushuang was not surprised about the answer. He had also heard from Long Qi that the war had broken out suddenly, and many things were still unknown for many people. Dao Yuanzi said, "But I know that in the war, many powerful sects united and attacked the terrain of the Seven-Star Black Sect, which mobilized all their power to fight the enemies. Though the enemies were so powerful, the Seven-Star Black Sect still managed to contain them." Jian Wushuang was shocked. Now, Jian Wushuang could imagine how powerful the Seven-Star Black Sect was. So, what was the final result of this battle? Jian Wushuang continued to ask, but Dao Yuanzi shook his head. "Master, the battle was terribly fierce. I am just a nobody. At that time, I was so scared that I hid from the war." Jian Wushuang was surprised. Dao Yuanzi had been very powerful in his prime, equivalent to an emperor of the eternal chaotic world. But with that power, he was not capable of fighting in the war and had even had to hide. "It seems that the ancient time was much stronger than I thought," Jian Wushuang murmured. But suddenly, something occurred to Jian Wushuang. He changed his tone and asked, "You mentioned that you didn't participate in the war. But how can you explain your wound? You could only recover after so many years, so it must have been caused by a great power." Chapter 1806, Ancient Behind-the-Scenes Stories, Part 2. "My injury." Dao Yuanzi smiled bitterly. "Master, my injury wasn't caused by a vigorous fight with an expert, but when the war was coming to an end, an expert made a formation that was barbaric and extremely terrifying. It forcefully absorbed all my divine power, including my blood essence." Formation? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Not only myself, but many experts who participated in the war also got their divine power and blood essence forcefully absorbed by the formation. After that, I was forced into a deep sleep and started to recover my power over the years. At first, although I was in a bad shape, as long as I am given enough time, I could recover. But who knows, since the war ended, the spiritual energy in the universe became thin at a terrifying speed. In less than 10,000 years, it was thin to a point I never imagined. In such an environment, my injury couldn't recover. Previously, when I created a blood devil clone, I spent years accumulating, but now, if the spiritual energy here hasn't become intense again, I don't know how long I have to take to recover, Dao Yuanzi said. "Is that so?" Jian Wushuang understood, but he was shocked. According to what Dao Yuanzi said, there were many ancient experts that hadn't died, but were forced into a deep sleep because their divine power and blood essence were forcefully absorbed by the formation. As the spiritual energy was too thin, they couldn't recover. But then, with the formation that his master Xian Yi set up, the spiritual energy of the ancient battlefield was recovering quickly. By then, it had already reached the level of the 10 sanctuaries in eternal chaotic world, and it was recovering continuously, according to the recovery rate. It was just a matter of time until it reached the standard of ancient times. But then, the ancient experts who were in deep sleep in the ancient battlefield, would they wake up? Very possible. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Dao Yuanzi could recover, and the other ancient experts definitely could too. It was just a matter of time. Then Jian Wushuang continued to ask Dao Yuanzi about the matters in ancient times. As Jian Wushuang got a simple understanding of ancient times, he was ever more astonished. The ferocity of ancient times was totally beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. After a few questions, Jian Wushuang paused and said, "Last question. Do you know an expert named Xian Yi?" Xian Yi. Dao Yuanzi's face changed. His eyes looked horrified. It seems like you know him. Jian Wushuang could see the change in Dao Yuanzi's expression through Blood Mountain Sword. No, I don't know him, but I have heard of him, Dao Yuanzi said. During the battle back then, although I didn't know the reason behind the explosion of the Wei, I knew that it was related to an expert named Xian Yi. Besides, at the end of the war, the person who set up the huge formation to forcefully absorb every expert's divine power and blood essence was Xian Yi. What? Jian Wushuang quivered. The formation that appeared in the end of the ancient war to absorb the expert's divine power and blood essence, which caused ancient experts into a deep sleep, was set up by Xian Yi. Why? Master, Jian Wushuang muttered. He wanted to know more about ancient times and the behind-the-scenes stories of the ancient war. It was a pity that Dao Yuanzi was only a nonentity in the ancient war. He knew too little. Jian Wushuang couldn't determine what had happened, but Jian Wushuang was sure about one thing. His master Xian Yi was definitely related to the ancient war. The formation that could blend in with the space-time storm surrounding the battlefield was also created by Xian Yi. Its goal was not only to protect Green Fire World, but also to improvise the environment of the ancient battlefield. In turn, the experts who were in deep sleep in the battlefield could wake up. Master, who are you exactly? And what are you trying to do? Jian Wushuang bellowed in his heart, but he couldn't get any answer as of now. He had to grow stronger if he wanted to know. At least, he had to be on the peak of eternal chaotic world that could be evenly matched with Great Emperor. Jian Wushuang shook his head, but didn't think further. Dao Yuanzi, remove owner recognition on your Qiankuan ring and give it to me, Jian Wushuang commanded. The corners of Dao Yuanzi's lips twitched, but he didn't hesitate. He immediately removed owner recognition on his Qiankuan ring. Jian Wushuang flipped his palm, and Dao Yuanzi's Qiankuan ring was in his hands. Then, Jian Wushuang immediately started to inspect it. Dao Yuanzi was an ancient expert after all. Although he wasn't anything big in ancient times, he was considered a super expert in eternal chaotic world. The things that he had in his Qiankuan ring were priceless. Of course, because of severe injury, the elixirs and many natural treasures in Dao Yuanzi's Qiankang ring had been used up. There was only some unique treasure left. There were also secret skills and rare books. But these things made Jian Wushuang beam with joy. Haha, not bad. In addition to the resources that I obtained from killing many experts over the years, I can make a cultivation sanctuary for Green Fire World, just like Thunderbolt Island in Sanctuary Alliance. Jian Wushuang laughed. He had killed multiple Sir Gods, and even countless real gods. He had obtained countless resources that were suitable for cultivation. With the resources and some unique treasures, he should be able to build a Thunderbolt Island. Of course, the Thunderbolt Island was merely a metaphor. It was definitely not compatible with Thunderbolt Island of Sanctuary Alliance. To Green Fire World, where the strongest person was only a universe god in the second heaven, it was too useful. Even after Green Fire World grew and gave birth to real god, it would still be useful. Just then, Jian Wushuang flicked his wrist, and a drop of golden blood essence appeared in his hand from nowhere. The drop of golden blood essence, although its color wasn't pure, the power contained was enchanting, even for Jian Wushuang. As Jian Wushuang looked at the drop of blood essence, the ancient god blood essence in Jian Wushuang's body instantly began to boil too. Dao Yuanzi, this should be the ancient tribe blood essence that you were talking about, right? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Yes, Dao Yuanzi nodded. I happened to get it by chance. It is blood essence of a pure ancient tribe expert. However, the ancient tribe expert wasn't strong, merely middle-stage chaotic realm. When I needed to recover my power in deep sleep, I consumed all elixirs and natural treasures, but I couldn't absorb the drop of ancient tribe blood essence. Chapter 1807. Wushuang City. What do you mean by saying that ancient gods were just a small bloodline of ancient clan? Jian Wushuang asked. First, I will explain the ancient clan. I mentioned that in the battle in the ancient times, there were many powerful clans uniting against seven-star ancient gods, and ancient clan was one of them. The inherent advantages of the ancient clan were much greater than those of the same level. Because the inherent advantages were so great, the clan was the most powerful one among the four great clans at that time, despite its relatively low number of members. And the ancient blood lineage that you have also derives from the ancient clan. After a pause, Dao Yuanzi continued. Besides, as ancient gods, the ancient clan also had the blood lineage of ancient demons and the ancient devils. Only the combination of these three different bloods can compose a complete lineage of the ancient clan. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang asked, that is to say, my bloodline of the ancient gods is not comparable to the blood of the ancient clan? Of course not. Even if you grow into the 10-star ancient god, your blood will still not be less powerful than that of strong talents of the ancient clan. Dao Yuanzi said. Jian Wushuang was shocked. 10-star ancient god. Wasn't that the legendary ancient god emperor? The ancient god emperor was supreme and incomparable among ancient gods. But he was still far weaker than members of the ancient clan. My lord, I once told you that in the ancient battlefield, there is a corpse of a strong man from the ancient clan with the lineage of the ancient clan. You can inherit that lineage, which is far better than yours, if you go there. Dao Yuanzi said. Where is the corpse exactly? Asked Jian Wushuang. Of course I know. Dao Yuanzi nodded. If you want to go, I can take you there, at any time. Fine. I will decide later. Then Jian Wushuang put away the blood mountain sword. My lord, the Dao Yuanzi was upset. He thought, I have told Jian Wushuang so much, but he still distrusts me. A waste of time, for me. Of course, Dao Yuanzi only dared to say that in the bottom of his heart, Jian Wushuang was sitting in the secret room. Hey, what do you think? Jian Wushuang asked King of Venomous Worms. I have never heard of the ancient clan before, but from the blood essence you got from Dao Yuanzi's place, I can see that the power of the blood is truly more powerful than yours, so I think he is not lying. As for the corpse he mentioned, he also told the truth because now you can decide his life, but he never mentioned the danger of seeking the corpse. So it is clear that he is hiding some secrets. King of Venomous Worms smiled coldly. Of course, I can see his mind. But don't worry. When I finish the matter in the Green Fire world, I will go to the place he mentioned. If it's dangerous, I will leave directly. Jian Wushuang smiled. King of Venomous Worms nodded. Then Jian Wushuang looked at the blood essence in his hands. I will see how strong this blood is. Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to slowly absorb this drop of blood. Dao Yuanzi could not absorb the power of this drop of blood because he had no connection with the clan, but Jian Wushuang could. After all, ancient gods derived from the ancient clan. 1 month soon passed. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes, and a fierce blast exploded. Dao Yuanzi was right. The blood lineage of the ancient clan is truly more powerful than ancient gods. After absorbing the blood, I feel my ancient god power has become greater. In addition, the 2 ancient god stars between his eyebrows that had been broken in the battle with Dao Yuanzi were repaired, but it is just a drop of blood essence. It is not of great use for me. What is really useful is the blood inheritance from the ancient clan. Jian Wushuang felt a desire to get it, but he didn't hurry. After that, Jian Wushuang mobilized many resources and combined them with his own power to establish a cultivation sacred place in Green Fire World. He located the place in a floating city. Jian Wushuang had put a lot of cultivation resources, including some peculiar treasures, all in the great city, and built it with a lot of time and energy. This process took 500 years. Finally finished. Jian Wushuang was satisfied when he saw the splendid building. From now on, this city will be a holy place that many geniuses in the Green Fire World will yearn for. It has countless cultivation resources. Though they are far from being comparable to the Thunder Island of the Holy League or the Star Lineage, they can still be compared with those top places in the eternal chaotic world. In the future, I can continue to perfect this city and attract geniuses in the green world and give them the best training. As for the name of this city, let's call it Wushuang City. Also on this day, the Green Fire World completed the Reformation. A large number of talents who belonged to the Green Fire Palace started their own establishments, but at the same time, they still belonged to the Green Fire Palace. The leadership structure also changed. There were 5 new palace masters, and on top of them, a top master. Of course, it was Jian Wushuang. After the reform, the Green Fire World gradually grew into a power that could challenge the 10 great cultivation sacred places, or the Holy League. Chapter 1808, Crimson Lightning Region. Disciple, this is a sword principle that I specially created for you according to the sword intention that you grasped. There is a total of 3 moves in this sword principle, but every move could be evolved into 33 sword stroke. Before you break through and become a real god, study this sword principle, and it should be enough. Jian Wushuang passed his communication token to his lineal disciple, Lin Lan. Thank you, Master. Lin Lan took it gratefully. From today onwards, you shall stay in Wushuang City for cultivation. There are many opportunities in Wushuang City, and sword principle took up the most. You must work hard, Jian Wushuang exhorted. Then he looked at He Xiu. He Xiu, from now on, you shall cultivate in Wushuang City as well. There are 2 mystery lands that I created personally. It will be helpful for you too. At the same time, there will be a test in the 2 mystery lands. I will give you 3,000 years' time. Within the 3,000 years, if you can pass any one of the tests, I will take you in as my lineal disciple. I will definitely work hard for it. He Xiu was filled with excitement. Besides, as your swordsmanship is at a higher level than your seniors, if you were to be free during the years when you are cultivating in Wushuang City, help your senior along the way. Jian Wushuang said. Yes, He Xiu nodded. Junior, sorry to trouble you, Lin Lan said. Senior, don't mention it. He Xiu smiled. Jian Wushuang saw the scene. Although it wasn't shown on his face, he sighed in his heart. Although Lin Lan and He Xiu were his disciples, and Lin Lan was his lineal disciple, in terms of talent, Lin Lan was born in Eternal World. She was considered decent in Green Fire World, but she couldn't reach the peak. Compared to He Xiu, she was far behind. Even with Jian Wushuang's guidance, specially created sword principle, and the assistance of resources in Wushuang City, she would at most reach real god level, and only be a void real god. It required luck to a certain extent to become a void real god. As for eternal real god, unless one received an opportunity, one wouldn't stand much chance. As for He Xiu, he was God's favored one. Not only was he talented, but his disposition was mature. He was under Jian Wushuang, and he had only been a registered disciple, but he was never anxious or impatient, nor did he complain. Even when he saw that Lin Lan was Jian Wushuang's lineal disciple, He Xiu wasn't jealous at all. Jian Wushuang appreciated this the most. If it was said that Lin Lan could only become a void real god at most, He Xiu definitely had the potential to become an almighty. Of course, to reach that level required a lot of time and effort. However, I have always been casual when it comes to taking in disciples. Regardless of talent, as long as I click with someone, no matter what their achievement is, they are my disciples. Jian Wushuang smiled and waved his hands. Go ahead. He Xiao and Lin Lan walked to Wushuang City right away. Not just them, but as Wushuang City was built, Green Fire World had already started filtering geniuses. Actually, to be frank, it was a genius assembly. The genius assembly would happen every 1,000 years from then on. The ones who had performed outstandingly would stand a chance to cultivate in Wushuang City. Of course, the threshold to enter Wushuang City was naturally high. It was also to increase the intensity of competition between all forces in Green Fire World. After Jian Wushuang had settled everything in Green Fire World, he went to Ancient World's divine land alone. However, it was a pity that to Ancient Worlds had gone through drastic changes in tens of thousands of years. When Jian Wushuang returned to Divine Land, he felt foreign. In the end, he only found Sword Marquis Mansion's man with the assistance of Ancient Sect. As 10,000s of years passed, Sword Marquis Mansion no longer existed, but only a few descendants were left behind and scattered around. Jian Wushuang had mentally prepared for it long ago. It is good enough that their bloodline has carried on. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Back when he had entrusted Ancient Sect to take care of Sword Marquis Mansion, he had told them to ensure that Sword Marquis Mansion would carry on the bloodline. As for the rise and fall of Sword Marquis Mansion, it didn't matter. Even the great forces in Eternal Chaotic World would fall one day, let alone Sword Marquis Mansion in Ancient Worlds. Jian Wushuang didn't stay for long in Ancient Worlds, and he left right after. Then Jian Wushuang went to the ancient battlefield at the border. Jian Wushuang was also attracted by the bloodline inheritance of ancient tribe experts. Under the lead of Dao Yuanzi, Jian Wushuang arrived at a region where it was covered in crimson lightning. If I'm not mistaken, this should be Crimson Lightning region? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Dao Yuanzi, the ancient tribe dead body that you mentioned, is really in here. My life depends on your whim. How could I lie to you? Dao Yuanzi said. Jian Wushuang's face became solemn. He knew of the territory in front of him. Over the years, a large number of experts from Green Fire Palace had wandered in the battlefield. Hence, the region that they had explored was nothing compared to the entire battlefield. There were some places that were explored, just like the region that was covered by the flashes of crimson lightning. Green Fire Palace had kept a record of it and named it Crimson Lightning Region. Crimson Lightning Region wasn't huge, but merely an expanse of about a few 100,000 miles in circumference. In the expanse of about a few 100,000 miles, it was engulfed in crimson lightning. The flashes of lightning were extremely powerful, and it formed an ocean of lightning. With the coverage of crimson lightning, there was naturally no one who could step foot in Crimson Lightning Region. At least, Green Fire Palace didn't have anyone who had entered Crimson Lightning Region all these years. Those who had barged in were struck by the flashes of crimson lightning and turned into ashes. Hence, no one knew what was in Crimson Lightning Region. The Crimson Lightning Region is interesting. It could seal off my soul power. However, I could feel that although the flashes of crimson lightning in Crimson Lightning Region could kill a real god, it would be insufficient to cause any effect on my divine body. Jian Wushuang kept quiet for a while, then he made a decision. He slowly moved closer to Crimson Lightning Region. The moment he stepped foot into Crimson Lightning Region, the surrounding flashes of crimson lightning hemmed Jian Wushuang in instantly. The power that the flashes of crimson lightning contained felt like it was going to break Jian Wushuang into pieces. However, Jian Wushuang had a shield made of divine power and blocked the crimson lightening off entirely while he continued to approach the depth of Crimson Lightning region. In a short time, he had already flown past more than half the distance, but he hadn't encountered any danger. Isn't it too smooth? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. The flashes of crimson lightning covering Crimson Lightning region gave Jian Wushuang a unique feeling. From what he saw, he thought it shouldn't be that easy to shuttle to and from the ocean of lightning, but he didn't feel any hindrance until then. Chapter 1809 Dao Soldiers. Dao Yuanzi, you must have entered the Crimson Lightning region before. So in the process, what did you encounter? Jian Wushuang asked. No, I was unimpeded all the way. Bloody thunder couldn't hurt me at all, Dao Yuanzi said. Oh, is that so? Jian Wushuang asked doubtfully. At that moment, Dao Yuanzi appeared innocent, but actually didn't tell the truth. Idiot, I will not tell you even if it is dangerous. Dao Yuanzi thought. When Dao Yuanzi accidentally came to the Crimson Lightning region and the Thunder Sea, he knew that besides bloody thunder, there were also sacred thunders of extermination, which appeared occasionally. Dao Yuanzi had encountered a sacred thunder of extermination once, but he was immune. But Jian Wushuang will have no time to respond, so he will be doomed to die. Once he dies, I can survive and escape, Dao Yuanzi murmured. Please come, sacred thunder of extermination. But Dao Yuanzi was unaware that Jian Wushuang was vigilant. Once Jian Wushuang was threatened by a crisis, he would not hesitate to kill Dao Yuanzi first. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang did not encounter the destruction of the gods, and the journey to the bloody Thunder Sea was all right. After crossing the Thunder Sea, Jian Wushuang saw a vast open space, in the middle of which lay a huge corpse. This corpse was as tall as tens of thousands of feet. Even though it had collapsed many years ago, it still had an incomparable power. Seeing this corpse, Jian Wushuang got excited. You were not lying. There is indeed a corpse of a strong man from the ancient clan here. Jian Wushuang smiled as he noticed that at the forefront of the huge corpse there was a gray light in between the eyebrows. The light was very weak, and Jian Wushuang couldn't see what it was. My lord, the gray light should be the blood lineage left by that strong talent, but it is very difficult to get it, said Dao Yuanzi. Oh, what do you mean? Asked Jian Wushuang. On the way to the corpse, there are hidden Dao soldiers, which may have been left by the dead strongman when he collapsed. Those Dao soldiers will prevent incomers from reaching the corpse. I also wanted to approach the corpses, but at that moment I hadn't recovered yet, so I was defeated by the soldiers. So how could you know that the strong man left his blood lineage when you haven't approached it at all? Jian Wushuang questioned Dao Yuanzi. Well, Dao Yuanzi paused for a long time and said, I guessed it. Jian Wushuang knew Dao Yuanzi didn't always tell the truth. But one thing was for sure. There was indeed a gray light in between the eyebrows. Even though it was not lineage blood, it would be very important. How powerful are those soldiers? Jian Wushuang asked. They are weaker than human cultivators, equivalent to the early stage of chaos gems. But on the journey you will meet a lot of them, said Dao Yuanzi. Jian Wushuang was worried. The early stage of chaos gem had the same power as Sir Gods. And there might be many soldiers. It would not be so easy to get to the corpse. Anyway, I will try, Jian Wushuang murmured, and then approached the corpse. But soon, many Dao soldiers with bronze armor appeared. There was a sudden sound as the ground cracked, followed by the appearance of burly figures. These soldiers were all the same in their appearance and size, and they all had a bronze-colored axe in their hands. 6 Dao soldiers in total. Jian Wushuang started to generate his power. At that moment, the 6 soldiers all rushed toward him. Bang! 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 He saw 6 bright bronze lights shimmering, and 6 axes went to Jian Wushuang. Go to hell! Jian Wushuang waved his swords, the power of which forced 6 soldiers back. These Taoist soldiers have only reached the level of the general Sir Gods, and their swordsmanship is just mediocre. They can't stop me. He was only tens of thousands of miles away from the corpse. Usually he could easily pass through the distance, but this time, because of the numerous soldiers, the journey would take longer. The ground split, and many soldiers rushed out one by one. In the instant, Jian Wushuang was surrounded by 100 soldiers. Most of the soldiers were bronze-armored soldiers, but at the forefront there were 4 Dao soldiers wearing silver armor. They were obviously stronger than those in bronze. Jian Wushuang guessed that they would be of the level of an emperor god. At that moment, they all rushed to Jian Wushuang like wasps. Chapter 1810. Wuhan, Jian Wushuang, don't waste your time with them. Just rush over. King of Venomous Worms said in Jian Wushuang's head. I share the same idea. Jian Wushuang concentrated his gaze. As the Dao soldiers charged at him, the billowing ancient god power flowed out. His figure grew tremendously to 3 meters tall. At the same time, there were heads and arms that extended from his body. Ancient god unique skill, 6 heads and 12 arms. Each and every one of his 12 arms was holding a sword. Besides, there were 2 resplendent golden lights that swept out. They were 2 Hongyung golden swords. Die! Jian Wushuang rushed forward and instantly fought with the Dao soldiers. Bang! 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 There were deafening noises resonating continuously, and there were Dao soldiers flying off from the impact. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang relied on the advantage of his power and strength, and also his close combat skills to move forward in the besiegement. In a short while, Jian Wushuang then landed on the ancient tribe expert's dead body. Then, the Dao soldiers that were chasing after him stopped simultaneously and returned underground. Jian Wushuang smiled at the sight. It seems that the Dao soldiers' order is only to hinder people from getting close to the dead body. As long as the person arrives at the dead body, they will immediately stop, Jian Wushuang said. After barging through the obstruction of the Dao soldiers, Jian Wushuang turned to look to the highest part of the dead body, which was where the dim light was. Jian Wushuang moved, and he appeared before the dim light very quickly. At that moment, Jian Wushuang finally saw the appearance of the dim light clearly. It was actually a human figure. Yes, it was a human figure, but the method of existence was extremely unique. When Jian Wushuang came before it, the human figure that looked like nothing suddenly opened its eyes and looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange gaze. Jian Wushuang was stunned. This feeling, is it consciousness? Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and bowed politely. Greetings, Senior. I am Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang. A loud and bright voice was heard from the figure. My name is Wuhan. I am an ancient tribe. Senior Wuhan, Jian Wushuang greeted again. I have been in the battlefield for a very, very long time. It has been so many years, and you are the first to appear before me. Not too long ago. Although there was someone who barged in, it's a pity that he wasn't capable enough to come before me. Wuhan smiled faintly. Jian Wushuang understood that the person that Wuhan was talking about should be Dao Yuanzi. The battlefield that he was in was sealed off from the world. Only the people in Green Fire World would wander around the battlefield. However, Green Fire World was still too weak. There wasn't anyone who could explore places like Crimson Lightning Region. As a result, Jian Wushuang was the first person that appeared before Wuhan after all these years. I passed away many years ago, but only a slight bit of my consciousness remained. I wonder how the outside world is now. Jian Wushuang, tell me Wu Hun said. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. He briefly told him about everything he knew that had happened after the ancient war, including the new pattern of the world. Ancient times? First era? Second era? Wu Hun laughed when he heard. That's interesting. I never expected the world to become like this, especially the strongest expert is only peak chaotic realm. The war back then seems to have had a major influence. Senior Wu Hun, you should know a lot about the war in ancient times, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Wu Hun's power in ancient times seemed to be much stronger than Dao Yuanzi's. He definitely knew more secrets than him too. Wu Hun shook his head slowly when he heard Jian Wushuang's assumption. I do know some about the ancient war, but I can't tell you. Sometimes it isn't a good thing to know more. Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows, but he didn't force Wu Hun. Jian Wushuang, you have an ancient tribe bloodline in you, but it isn't complete. The purpose of your visit today should be about my bloodline inheritance, right? Wu Hun asked. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Bloodline inheritance. I do have bloodline inheritance here. Wu Hun said as he flipped his jade-like palm. Then a pearl that was concentrated with blood essence appeared in his hands. The moment the pearl appeared, Jian Wushuang could feel the ancient god blood in him suddenly boil and shake vigorously. There was an unprecedented desire that soared up. Such desire was the desire for a bloodline. Bloodline inheritance is here. As for if you can get it, it depends on you, Wu Hun said. Senior's advice and comments are appreciated. Jian Wushuang was extremely humble. Wu Hun smiled, and he waved his other hand. On the chest of the dead body under them, there was suddenly a resplendent light. The light was a blurry stone steel. The stone steel gave out an ancient yet magnificent aura, and it was covered with a secret pattern that was complicated and unique. I have been in the battlefield for too long. At first, I really wanted to look for a suitable genius that was outstanding to inherit my bloodline. But as time passed, I dismissed this intention of mine. Now, I am happy enough to just pass the bloodline inheritance to someone. There's no need for a strong, gifted talent. As long as you reach the fundamental requirements, that will do. The fundamental requirement is very simple. The stone steel in front of you contains a secret skill. The secret skill is exclusive to ancient tribe. Its name is Immemorial Celestial Body. It is a secret skill of body refinery. As long as you have complete ancient tribe blood, you can cultivate this. There are 7 volumes in the secret skill. What you need to do now is to comprehend the first volume from the steel. Your time limit is 1,000 years. In 1,000 years, if you are able to comprehend the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body, I will pass my blood inheritance to you. I have already reduced the threshold to the lowest. If it was when I first passed away, the rule that I had set was for one to comprehend the first 3 volumes in 1,000 years. If you can't even fulfill the lowest criteria, I'd rather my bloodline disappear entirely than pass it to trash, Wu Hun said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Then he turned around and looked at the gray stone steel that was covered in the secret pattern. He took a deep breath and sat down in front of the steel. Chapter 1811. Immemorial Celestial Body. In front of the gray stone tablet, Jian Wushuang stood calmly. He didn't hurry to learn the Immemorial Celestial Body. He had 1,000 years. No need to hurry. Dao Yuanzi, Sword Wu asked, have you heard of the Immemorial Celestial Body? Immemorial Celestial Body. Dao Yuanzi was shocked. Has the strong man left this here? No. Just answer my question. Do you know or not? Jian Wushuang said, of course I know. Dao Yuanzi nodded. Immemorial Celestial Body is the strongest cultivation secret skills of the ancient clan, as definitely among the top 10 in the whole universe. Unfortunately, only the pure ancient clan blood descendants can cultivate it. Other people cannot benefit from it, even if they get it. It seems that it's a good secret skill. Jian Wushuang smiled. The ancient world was so powerful with numerous excellent secret skills, far better than the current eras. And this immemorial celestial body was ranked among the top 10 skills, so it was obvious how powerful it was. The immemorial celestial body, as well as the lineage inheritance of Wuhan, will be beneficial to me, Jian Wushuang thought, and started to learn. There were many mysterious lines in the gray stone monument, and the immemorial celestial body was within those lines. As Jian Wushuang was learning, Wuhan was thinking, the immemorial celestial body is the supreme secret skill of the ancient clan. Back then, many talents could learn it and acquire it, but nowadays the situation is different. Few people are qualified. In ancient times, strong talents were as countless as stars. The reason was that the cultivation environment of ancient times was much more superior. Environment decides the quality of talents. Because of the great environment, there were many talents far more powerful than the current days. Some of the most top-notch talents in the eternal chaotic world were just ordinary in the ancient time. Therefore, although Wuhan had already lowered his requirements to the lowest level for Jian Wushuang, he was still unsure whether Jian Wushuang could realize the first volume of the immemorial celestial body. Wuhan hoped that Jian Wushuang could succeed. Well, I have waited for a long time for this little guy to come to me, and he happens to have the blood lineage of the ancient clan. I don't want to lose the opportunity. He didn't want his own blood lineage to dissipate forever. He needed a descendant. I will see you later. Wuhan closed his eyes again. The entire Crimson Lightning region was completely quiet. Jian Wushuang fully concentrated on the learning, and soon 150 years passed. In front of the gray stone tablet, Jian Wushuang, who had been sitting quietly, suddenly opened his eyes, and his face was revealing a smile of joy. Later, he took out a token and began to record something in the token. After a while, he stood up and went to Wuhan, Senior Wuhan. Jian Wushuang was respectful. Wuhan opened his eyes. Hey, little guy, what doubts have you encountered on the way? None. Everything goes well, and I have solved my doubts along the way. Even if I have doubts, I have solved it myself. Now I have finished the first volume of the immemorial celestial body. I have fully realized it. Jian Wushuang said, How can that be possible? Wuhan was astonished. You only spent 150 years. This is the record I made. Please have a look. Jian Wushuang handed the token he had recorded to Wuhan. After picking up the token and reading, Wuhan was shocked. No mistakes. You really realize the secret skills. He had never imagined that Jian Wushuang could not only meet his requirements, but would finish the task within only 150 years. With that speed, he can fully comprehend the first 3 volumes and even comprehend the first 4 volumes of the immemorial celestial body. Genius, great genius. Even in my time, he could definitely be the top genius. Few people could do that. I collapsed for 5 years and lost hope to inherit my blood lineage. But at the last minute, I have been fortunate enough to meet such a top genius. Haha, God favors me. Wuhan was very excited, but he remained calm before Jian Wushuang. Since you have met my requirements, from now on, you are my descendant. I know you may have other masters or have inherited other lineages, but that doesn't matter. You only need to know that the blood of the ancient clan is derived from me, which is enough. This is my blood heritage. Take it. Wuhan gave the light beads that were completely condensed by the blood essence to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang received the bead, and his ancient god Lineage started to vibrate violently. Just do the inheritance here, so that I can also give you some advice. Wu Hun said, Chapter 1812, Bloodline Inheritance, MM. Jian Wushuang nodded, and immediately started inheriting under Wu Hun's guidance. The pearl that was concentrated with blood essence was absorbed into Jian Wushuang's body directly. Bloodline inheritance. Jian Wushuang had done it once. It was many years ago. He had received King of Venomous Worm's owner, King Luo Zhen's bloodline inheritance. However, the bloodline inheritance back then had required Jian Wushuang to spend a large amount of time and effort to absorb and refine King Luo Zhen's blood essence. In the end, not only had he received King Luo Zhen's bloodline, he had even received part of King Luo Zhen's power. It was a pity that Jian Wushuang had forcefully absorbed the rest of the drop of blood essence during a fierce fight, which had led to the interruption of inheritance. In the end, Jian Wushuang had only managed to get a complete royal ancient god bloodline. Wu Hun's method was obviously much superior to King Luo Zhen. The bloodline inheritance that Wu Hun had left behind had only contained a complete ancient tribe bloodline, but didn't carry any power. As such, it wouldn't affect Jian Wushuang at all. Besides, the speed of inheritance was really quick. It did not take a long time. It only took 10 years until the bloodline inheritance was completed. On the huge dead body, Jian Wushuang sat quietly, and his body was covered with a layer of faint black jade luster. His body was obviously one size more muscular than before as his muscles bulged. There were originally 6 ancient god stars that were hanging upside down in between his eyebrows, but then it had become 7 stars. Yes, there were 7 stars. The 7 ancient god stars weren't dark gold, but had become black jade. Black jade ancient god stars. Jian Wushuang muttered. Then he quickly shook his head. No, it shouldn't be referred to as an ancient god star. His bloodline had already transformed. He wasn't an ancient god, but a complete ancient tribe then. He possessed the ancient tribe bloodline. As for the quadrangular star in between his eyebrows, they were a fountain of ancient tribe strength. Every single quadrangular star contained boundless power of ancient tribe bloodline. The power of the bloodline was very strong. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, and there was an explosion in the void. He felt that his random punch without divine power, but with only power of ancient tribe bloodline, could easily break a hole in the void that was tens of thousands of miles in circumference. My power has improved. Jian Wushuang was sure about it. There was no doubt about it. Even if his bloodline didn't transform completely as he accumulated 7 stars and became a 7-star royal ancient god, his power of ancient god should be at the level of an almighty. Then his bloodline transformed completely and became a 7-star ancient tribe expert. Jian Wushuang's power of bloodline already surpassed the standard of ordinary Sir God. If not mistaken, my power of bloodline alone shouldn't be weaker than an ordinary Sir God's, if not stronger. In addition to my divine power of 3rd stage ultimate real God, the combination of the two, in terms of power, I should be stronger than an emperor god by double or more. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shimmering with excitement. One's power at the level of Sir God or emperor god would be vastly different even if it was only 10 to 20% of increment. Double. In terms of power itself, it doubled. What was that? Now, I don't need to perform any secret skills, but a casual hit will explore with ferocious power, and it should easily hit an ordinary Sir God to death. If I were to perform various skills and secret skills with my all, especially Ancient God's secret skills, Ancient God belonged to Ancient Clan. Hence, an expert with Ancient Tribe bloodline naturally could perform Ancient God unique skill and secret skill, and it would be even more powerful. His power had increased tremendously. Jian Wushuang's overall power had increased tremendously after the bloodline inheritance ended. There might still be a slight distance between his current power and the top of Emperor God, but he was definitely very close. At first, not only did I prepare bloodline inheritance, I also prepared to pass down ancient tribe unique skill and secret skill. However, I have been on the battlefield for too long, and my remaining consciousness has reached my weakest point. I can't complete those. Hence, you could only slowly look for other ancient tribe inheritance when your power grows stronger in the future. Wu Hun sighed. Jian Wushuang shrugged, but he didn't mind. To him, it was great that he had received an ancient tribe bloodline. As for ancient tribe's secret skill and unique skill, he wouldn't consider them just yet. Oh, yeah, Senior Wu Hun, could you give me the stone steel that recorded immemorial celestial body? Or can I stay back to comprehend the secret skill completely? Jian Wushuang asked. Just bring the stone steel with you. Wu Hun smiled. On top of that, I have another thing for you. As Wu Hun spoke, he waved, and there was a crimson flowing light that soared up from the huge dead body and plunged over. When the flowing light got closer, Jian Wushuang saw that the flowing light was actually a crimson armor. The armor looked rusty, and it was dim. This armor is called 5-gem armor. I paid a great price to get an expert to make this back then. It is really powerful. There were a few times when I was in danger that I survived because of this armor. However, when the terrifying war descended, the armor was severely damaged in the ferocious fight. 90% of this armor is damaged, which was the reason that I lost my life. However, although the armor is left with only 10% of its power, it should be more than sufficient for you, Wu Hun said, and threw the crimson armor at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang immediately caught the crimson armor, and he looked at it with his eyes shimmering with joy. Although the armor was broken, Jian Wushuang could still feel that it was remarkable. To a cultivator, armor was too useful. Since Jian Wushuang had started cultivation, he had received 2 suitable armors in total. One was blood-killing plate armor, and it was from Dao Yuanzi's Blood Devil clone. Quoting Dao Yuanzi, he had said that blood-killing plate armor and Holocaust Sect's vicious secret skills were obtained from the hands of an expert who had passed away in the ancient battlefield. Jian Wushuang wasn't sure if it was true or false, but he was certain that Holocaust Sect that was in the dark side of eternal chaotic world might have existed since ancient times. As for the second armor, it was blood feather reincarnation armor from Lineage of Star. Although it was powerful, it was just something of little value to Jian Wushuang then, but he was reluctant to give it up. But then, he had received a 5-gem armor. The armor was one of Wu Hun's reliances back when he had marched in ancient times. Chapter 1813. Sword Slave. Unfortunately, I lost nearly all of my treasures in that fierce battle. Only this piece of 5-gem armor is for you. It is also severely broken. Thank you. Jian Wushuang was very grateful. Predecessor, could you please do me another favor? Say it. Wu Hun was very patient. I have a slave, and he was a strong man in the ancient times. Jian Wushuang talked about Dao Yuanzi and their subtle relationship. So, do you want to completely erase his own consciousness and completely control him? Wu Hun asked. Yes. Only in this way will there be no risk. I wonder if you can help me? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, let your slave come out first. Jian Wushuang nodded, and immediately waved his sword and released Dao Yuanzi. My lord! Dao Yuanzi immediately vowed to the sword, and when he saw Wu Hun, he was shocked. He had stayed in the sword, and he knew what was happening outside, but he couldn't hear the conversation between Jian Wushuang and Wu Hun. You are Dao Yuanzi? Wu Hun asked with a powerful voice. Dao Yuanzi looked at Wu Hun and felt something bad was happening. Suddenly, he was struck by a great soul power. Dao Yuanzi got scared. He now knew what was happening. You want to erase my consciousness? You can never do that. Dao Yuanzi resisted violently. The strength of this resistance had even caused some difficulties. For Wu Hun, be quiet. Jian Wushuang exerted some power onto Dao Yuanzi. Bastard, I have already surrendered to you. You kept me with you, and even want to control my soul? I would rather die than let you succeed. Dao Yuanzi snarled wildly, and with his roar, his soul began to burn. For a practitioner, their soul being controlled was much more miserable than being dead. Wu Hun increased his power and exerted to Dao Yuanzi's body. Ah! Dao Yuanzi screamed, his voice hysterical. But the screams only lasted for a while. After a while, he completely calmed down. He stood there without awareness. Seeing this scene, Wu Hun was relieved and said, "Fortunately, your slave is in a state of serious injury. Plus you have left a soul stamp on him. Otherwise, it is absolutely difficult to rely on my remaining consciousness to completely erase his consciousness." While talking, the shape of Wu Hun became more transparent, as if it was going to dissipate at any time. Jian Wushuang understood. There had been little consciousness left in Wu Hun's body, and it was used to erase the consciousness of Dao Yuanzi. So Wu Hun had little energy left, and he was going to dissipate. "Thank you for your kindness. I will remember it forever." Jian Wushuang said solemnly, "I am glad to meet you. It is you that helped me. It is my fortune. If you really want to thank me, you should work hard to cultivate. If one day you become the very top one of the world, tell the other people of the ancient clan that you are the descendant of Wu Hun, then I will die without regrets." Ha ha! Wu Hun's laughter still echoed in the heavens for a long time, but the shape of him was gradually becoming transparent under the gaze of Jian Wushuang. Then Jian Wushuang stood up and looked at Dao Yuanzi. At this moment, Dao Yuanzi was completely different from how he had been before. His own consciousness has been completely erased, and now I will directly control him. Jian Wushuang exerted the power into Dao Yuanzi's mind. Dao Yuanzi couldn't resist at all. Soon, Jian Wushuang had completely controlled his soul. "My lord!" Dao Yuanzi greeted Jian Wushuang, his eyes full of respect like never before. He had totally changed. "From today, you are my first sword servant. Your name is now Jian Yi." "Yes, my lord." Jian Wushuang nodded with satisfaction and then looked around. "I have inherited the blood lineage of Wu Hun, so maybe I can conquer the consciousness of those soldiers just like Wu Hun did." Jian Wushuang wanted to have a try. Though those Dao soldiers were not powerful individually, they could be a useful tool when hundreds of them fought together. "Try it out." Jian Wushuang stepped forward. Around Wu Hun's corpse, many Dao soldiers rose. But this time, Jian Wushuang felt different. Dao soldiers were created with the blood essence of the ancient clan, with a purpose to protect Wu Hun's body. So Jian Wushuang could easily conquer them, as now he had inherited Wu Hun's blood. Chapter 1814 Communication. In an hour's time, the Dao soldiers surrounding Wu Hun's dead body submitted. A total of 132 Dao soldiers. Among them there were 128 bronze-armored Dao soldiers and 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers. Although they don't have consciousness, they only knew to follow their owner's command blindly, but don't know how to fight at close quarters. They should be able to fight evenly with a Sir God as long as there are 10 bronze-armored Dao soldiers. With so many Dao soldiers, they could totally fight with over 10 Sir Gods. With the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers, they could fight evenly with an Emperor God. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He had gained a bountiful harvest from the trip to Crimson Lightning region. Not only had he received an ancient tribe bloodline inheritance, and his power had increased tremendously, he had also gotten himself immemorial celestial body and 5 gem armor. At the same time, he had soul-controlled an expert Jian Yi. He had also reduced the Dao Soldiers to submission. Ancient battlefield. This is the ancient battlefield with endless opportunities. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shimmering with hope. He finally understood why the experts in Eternal Chaotic World desired Ancient Mystery Land so badly. However, although Ancient Mystery Land was also an ancient battlefield, it had been opened many times, and every time it had opened, a large number of experts had flooded in. Many opportunities were already taken. The ancient battlefield surrounding Green Fire World was different. On the battlefield, besides the ancient experts who were in a deep sleep, only Jian Wushuang, who possessed the power of an almighty, could wander there. In other words, he had conquered the huge ancient battlefield alone. If the experts in Eternal Chaotic World were to find out, they would definitely be green, with envy. The ancient battlefield has endless opportunities. 50,000 years ago, I was too weak and I couldn't find anything. But now I can wander and search through this place, Jian Wushuang muttered. There's no hurry. Let me return to Green Fire World for now. Jian Wushuang immediately returned to Green Fire World. When he passed by the ocean of Crimson Lightning again, he heard from Jian Yi about the threat hidden in the ocean of Crimson Lightning. Humph! As expected, Dao Yuanzi did hide things from me. He knew that ocean of Crimson Lightning contained sacred thunder of extermination, but he didn't mention it to me. He wanted me to be killed by the sacred thunder of extermination, so that he could escape my control, Jian Wushuang sneered. After he found out, he was naturally extra cautious when he passed through the ocean of Crimson Lightning, but he didn't encounter any sacred thunder of extermination. Jian Wushuang finally returned to Green Fire World after some time. The supreme sanctuary of Green Fire World, Wushuang City. After the filtration of the genius assembly by Green Fire World, there were only 100 geniuses who received the chance to cultivate in Wushuang City. The cultivation time was limited to 1,000 years. Besides the geniuses, there were some higher-ups in Green Fire World that had paid a great price to cultivate in Wushuang City as well. By then, Wushuang City had been built for 100 years. The geniuses and experts who cultivated in the city had realized the benefits of cultivating there. Hence, they were naturally dying to enter. However, Jian Wushuang understood that Green Fire World had just settled down, and Wushuang City had been built not too long ago. It wouldn't be realistic if he hoped to see results so quickly. The result would only show itself in another few thousand years. Wushuang City is where spiritual energy concentrated the most in Green Fire World. Jian Yi, from today, you shall stay in Wushuang City. I will provide you with resources to recover your power. I hope your power can be recovered in the shortest time possible, Jian Wushuang said. Yes, Jian nodded politely. Previously, Jian Wushuang had yet to take control of Dao Yuanzi entirely. Hence, he kept his guard up and didn't dare to give him any chance to recover his power. But then, it was entirely different. Dao Yuanzi's consciousness had been wiped off. There was only Jian Yi, who was loyal to Jian Wushuang. Naturally, the greater Jian Yi's power, the better. If Jian Yi's power could recover to his peak, he would be a peak chaotic realm, which equaled to a great emperor. Also, as an ancient expert, his skills and power would be extraordinary. Even among great emperors, he should be an absolute expert as well. Among great emperors in Eternal Chaotic World, only Emperor Bai, who was widely recognized as the strongest, would be able to place himself above Jian Yi. However, Jian Wushuang also knew that it wouldn't be that easy to fully recover Jian Yi's power. Besides Jian Yi, Jian Wushuang had also left 100 bronze-armored Dao soldiers in Wushuang City. These Dao soldiers obeyed Jian Wushuang's command to safeguard Wushuang City. The rest of the 28 bronze-armored Dao soldier and 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers Jian Wushuang took with him. After all, he was going to wander at the surrounding ancient battlefield. The ancient battlefield was filled with danger and many mysterious places. Jian Wushuang didn't dare to probe hastily, but he could utilize the Dao soldiers. If there were to be danger, it would be nothing to lose a few Dao soldiers. After making arrangements for Jian Yi and the Dao soldiers, Jian Wushuang called for his disciple He Xiu. "Master," He Xiu stood before Jian Wushuang with respect. "You have cultivated in Wushuang City for over 100 years. How do you feel?" Jian Wushuang asked. Although Wushuang City's cultivation resources couldn't be compared favorably with Lineage of Stars, it isn't far behind, especially the spiritual energy here. It is so intense, and there are many opportunities in Wushuang City that are aimed at sword cultivators. Hence, to me, cultivation in Wushuang City is of greater help than cultivation in Lineage of Star. He Xiu replied honestly. "How about your senior?" Jian Wushuang asked. "She improved quite well, and she has reached the limit of Universe Master. Her first God's test will be coming soon," He Xiu answered. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly and commanded, "I came here today to tell you that I reckon I will stay in my hometown for quite some time. It is not necessary for you to stay here. If you want to wander outside, go ahead. I only ask that you do not share any information about this place after you leave." "I understand." He Xiu nodded heavily and smiled. Master Yuan happened to send me a message a while back. He said that he needed me to take care of some errands. I was going to inform you. Master Yuan sent a message to you?" Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. "You have been in Wushuang City all this while. You never left, so how did Master Yuan send you a message? Could it be?" With confusion, Jian Wushuang took out a communication token. In a short while, the other side of the token responded. As expected, Jian Wushuang was surprised. This battlefield can communicate with the outside world now. Chapter 1815 Chillywind Valley. The ancient battlefield, where the Green Fire world was located, had always been completely isolated from the outside world. Even when tribes from the Jin King went there and died in the battle, the outside world knew nothing about it, because the battlefield could not communicate with the outside world. But now, Jian Wushuang had found that this battlefield could already communicate with the outside world. He sent a message to Master Yuan, and the latter received it and sent another back to Jian Wushuang. The time and space of this battlefield has completely changed. Jian Wushuang looked up at the sky. He knew that the change was due to a large array of time and space storms created by his master. Before the Qing dynasty, it was completely isolated from the outside world, but now, at least it has allowed communication. I don't know if this is good or bad. Jian Wushuang felt worried and sighed. After reporting the situation to Master Yuan, Jian Wushuang went alone to the huge ancient battlefield, where he would spend a long time. In the ancient battlefield, there were countless unique places, opportunities, and also dangers, which were waiting for Jian Wushuang to explore. The first place Jian Wushuang wanted to go was the Chillywind Valley. It was the first place that Jian Wushuang had discovered and named. It was also a mysterious place. The Chillywind Valley was a huge, innocent pothole from which there would be a gush of chilly winds bursting out at regular intervals, just like a volcanic eruption. When Jian Wushuang arrived there, he was almost killed by the bloody cold wind that suddenly sprouted. Soon Jian Wushuang realized that some treasures with strong power were hiding there. It was very likely to be a chaos divine treasure, but unfortunately, the Chillywind Valley was too dangerous. When Jian Wushuang had been about to leave the Green Fire world 50,000 years ago, he had wanted to explore it, but he did not enter the valley. Until now. I'm going to have a look. Jian Wushuang looked at the huge, dark hole in front of him with a smile. He did not immediately enter the pothole, but waited for a while. Bang! The ground started to shake, and the mountain swayed, and the violent roar sounded loudly. Then, Jian Wushuang saw the wind vented and smashed everything in the world. It took 10 breaths' time to gradually subside. After the wind dissipated, Jian Wushuang waved his hands, and a group of bronze-armored Dao soldiers appeared. They were controlled by Jian Wushuang's consciousness. Go! Immediately, this bronze-armored soldiers did not hesitate to go directly into the Chillywind Valley. When Jian Wushuang had explored this Chillywind Valley 50,000 years ago, he had tried his best to go down 100,000 miles toward the bottom of the valley, and then he had not dared to move forward again. But this time, the Dao soldiers went 300,000 miles in one breath. But still, Jian Wushuang couldn't see the bottom. It was too deep. By controlling the consciousness of the bronze-armored Dao soldiers, he could clearly see everything that the soldiers encountered. The soldiers continued to plunge for 1,000,000 miles until the bottom of the valley was finally seen. At the bottom of the valley, there was a piece of white jade, a huge white jade. The surface of the jade was extremely smooth, but the most important thing was its power. The jade had extremely strong, yin-like power. Jian Wushuang could feel it so strongly even through the Dao soldier's consciousness. Is this only a jade? Jian Wushuang murmured and guided the bronze-armored Dao soldiers to approach. Soon, he appeared in front of this jade, and he could see the jade. I have never seen this kind of jade. Jian Wushuang murmured. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang saw the inner layer of the jade where there was a bright white light. Jian Wushuang looked at the white light, and finally, he realized something. It's not a jade. It's a person. But just as he saw the white light clearly, the figure covered in the white light also opened his eyes, and bloody lightning came out. In an instant, the lightning passed through the jade and directly hit the body of the bronze-armored Dao soldiers. The bronze-armored Dao soldiers were made by the blood essence of the ancient clan, and their bodies were extremely hard. However, under the bloody lightning, they were instantly shattered, and the consciousness that Jian Wushuang had attached to them also went away. Wrong, I got it wrong. Jian Wushuang realized it's not a treasure hidden in the bottom, but a strong man from ancient times. And I broke into the bottom of the Yin wind and woke up the ancient strong man. Escape, hurry! Jian Wushuang did not hesitate, and immediately turned and ran wildly. Jian Wushuang felt alarmed by such ancient strongmen. Furthermore, the strongman was so strong. After all, those Dao soldiers were so tough that Jian Wushuang had found it hard to smash them. But the strong man had done it. Obviously, he was far stronger than Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang ran with full speed, and soon he suddenly stopped, because less than 10 miles away there appeared a figure in the void. Chapter 1816, Strange Person. In the void, Jian Wushuang stood there like a statue. In his eyes, there was a fear that was rarely seen. He stared at the figure in front of him. That person was in a snow-white robe, untainted by even a speck of dust. His hands were behind his slender figure as he stood in the void. There was no aura given out from his body, but it was like air. However, this person had a pair of deep-seated eyes that considered everything and everybody, that looked down on all living things in the universe, that could even cover heaven and earth. He stood there without making any actions nor uttering any words, but he made the universe lose its shine. He knew that the proud and aloof, white-robed figure was the person on the other side of the jade rock in the depth of Chillywind Valley. However, the person was in the depths of Chillywind Valley when Jian Wushuang felt something wasn't right and immediately fled. In the end, he hadn't ran far before he saw the person waiting for him ahead. What kind of skill was that? Jian Wushuang, the person in front of you, is very strong, really very strong. King of Venomous, Worm's voice sounded terrified as it rang in Jian Wushuang's head. Obviously. Need you say? Jian Wushuang cursed. He, of course, knew the person in front of him was terrifying strong. Among the experts that he had seen, including the ancient experts, even the feeling that one-star man in Long Qi had given Jian Wushuang couldn't be compared to the aloof, white-robed figure in front of him. The only one who could be compared favorably would be Long Qi's master, the beautiful, black-haired man sleeping in the coffin. If the beautiful, black-haired man were to wake up, he might have the ability to compete with this person. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath, then bowed in the direction where the aloof, white-robed figure was. Jian Wushuang has no intention to offend Senior. I hope Senior can forgive me. As Jian Wushuang spoke, he felt anxious. One should know that he really had offended the aloof, white-robed man. The aloof, white-robed man was obviously in a deep sleep in Chillywind Valley, or he might be recovering from his injury. But in the end, Jian Wushuang barged into his sleeping place and woke him up with a start. To put himself in his shoes, if someone were to barge in when Jian Wushuang was treating an injury or cultivating in seclusion, he would definitely be furious. Besides, the aloof, white-robed man was really powerful, and he made one feel hopeless. If he were to try to kill Jian Wushuang definitely wouldn't even stand a chance to struggle. Hence, Jian Wushuang could only hope that he would calm down. Jian Wushuang. The aloof, white-robed man put his hands behind his back and floated in the void quietly. His eyes that were deep like stars suddenly looked at Jian Wushuang. He then muttered something and extended his right hand slowly in the direction where Jian Wushuang was and pointed. Oh no! Jian Wushuang's face changed. He responded at the first instant. There were flowing lights bursting out from his body, which were bronze-armored Dao Soldiers and the 4 silver-armored Dao Soldiers. Jian Wushuang took out all Dao Soldiers that he had brought along. Even though he knew that the Dao Soldiers couldn't stop the person, it was a crucial moment. The longer they held him back, the better. Boundless divine power in his body was burning madly. He had already performed the secret skill of dragon blood, and he was prepared to flee. At that moment, a terrifying power suddenly descended and instantly froze the space-time surrounding him. Jian Wushuang was still standing there. The divine power that was burning immediately stopped, and it even stopped revolving. He couldn't even move his body. Can't move. I can't move my body at all. Jian Wushuang stared. At that moment, he could clearly feel the difference of power that couldn't be compensated in any way. The aloof, white-robed man had merely pointed, and Jian Wushuang couldn't resist at all. That one gesture had bypassed the Dao Soldiers easily and hit Jian Wushuang in the hand, and it had hit in between Jian Wushuang's eyebrows. Jian Wushuang's body quivered, but he wasn't injured. Then he noticed that there was a unique mark on his body. It was as though the mark had belonged to Jian Wushuang originally. It was imprinted on him. Jian Wushuang was still in shock, but the aloof, white-robed man grew illusionary, and his body dispersed gradually. Very soon, the aloof, white-robed man disappeared entirely. Heaven and earth resumed its tranquility. Jian Wushuang was still standing in the void. He realized his palms and his back were soaked with sweat. The person earlier didn't intend to kill me. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. The person really didn't intend to kill him. He had merely left a unique mark on his body, then left. I offended him, but he didn't reprimand me, nor talk to me at all. He only left a mark on my body and left. Jian Wushuang was shocked. What was he thinking about? Jian Wushuang looked at the mark carefully. The mark was really just a mark, but it was a unique method to leave a mark. Regardless of if it was Jian Wushuang or King of Venomous Worms, they couldn't remove the mark. Besides that, the mark served no other purpose. Why did the aloof, white-robed man leave a mark on his body for? This person is so strange. Jian Wushuang muttered. Strange, really strange. After he appeared, he didn't show any anger nor ask Jian Wushuang any question. He didn't even bother to say anything, but he didn't kill Jian Wushuang either. He had only left a mark in Jian Wushuang's body. Jian Wushuang couldn't figure his intention out from such behavior. Regardless of his goal, I am alive. Jian Wushuang was glad. He had been really worried that the aloof, white-robed man would kill him. If he were to really attack Jian Wushuang wouldn't have stood a chance to survive even if he played all the cards he had on hand. The ancient battlefield has too many secrets, and there are countless hidden experts. Even though most of these ancient experts are not at their peak, it is still easy for them to kill me. Just like the person earlier. From the looks of it, I have to be more cautious when I wander around the ancient battlefield, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. After seeing the aloof, white-robed man, Jian Wushuang lost all his interest in Chillywind Valley. Then, he naturally went to explore other unique places. Green Fire Palace was the only one who had found the ancient battlefield. However, as they were too weak, there were dozens of unique places that they had yet to explore. Jian Wushuang was going to explore them. Chapter 1817 passed away. Ice World. Green Fire Palace found a unique place in the ancient battlefield. It was a territory that covered a few 100 million miles. The entire territory was covered in ice, which was extremely cold. When the cultivators from Green Fire World found Ice World, some of them went in. However, the strongest person only walked in for 10,000 miles, and he couldn't endure the terrifying chilliness. Hence, he was forced to leave. Over the years, there was no one who knew what was in Ice World. Jian Wushuang descended outside Ice World then. He stayed in Ice World for 3 days. 3 days later, he turned to leave. The ice in Ice World started dispersing after that. After just 10 days, it had disappeared entirely. The reason was that Jian Wushuang took the treasure that formed Ice World, a spear that was chaotic divine treasure level. After Ice World, Jian Wushuang arrived at another unique place. Jian Wushuang wandered around the unique places in the ancient battlefield alone and searched for treasures and opportunities within. As they were unique places, they definitely had a unique point. Every unique place he visited, Jian Wushuang would reap a bumpy harvest. Over a few 100 years, Jian Wushuang had reaped a great harvest. Jian Wushuang enjoyed exceptional natural advantages. Advantages that were enough to make all experts in eternal chaotic world jealous. Him alone, he conquered a vast ancient battlefield. No one was there to fight for opportunities with him. All opportunities, as long as he could find them, they belonged to him. How about the experts in eternal chaotic world? They were dying to wander an ancient battlefield. However, they could only wait. Wait for 500 million years until the ancient mystery land comes back to life. Then all experts swarm in and bleed to win the opportunities. Plus, the top experts had searched through ancient mystery land countless times. It should have run out of opportunities. However, the ancient battlefield where Greenfire World was located contained opportunities and treasure that were almost untouched. In such a situation, it'd be difficult if Jian Wushuang didn't want to gain anything. Time flew past. In the blink of an eye, 6,000 years had passed. Among the palaces hidden deep underground, it could also be known as underground cave dwelling. It was at a corner of the vast ancient mystery land, and the cave dwelling was named Seven-Star Realm. Among the densely concentrated palaces, there was a silver-haired elder sitting in front of a lofty palace. He was only a flag while he controlled a formation. The formation was covering a prohibition on the palace. It was obvious that he was trying to resolve a formation with one. After so many years, the prohibition surrounding the palace had been half resolved. Soon, the prohibition will be resolved entirely soon. The silver-haired elder's eyes were shimmering with joy. The silver-haired elder was the founder of Lineage of Star, the master of Star Palace. He had prepared for a total of 500 million years for the opportunity in this lofty palace. He had a feeling that once he grasped the opportunity in the palace, he might stand a chance to become a great emperor. Hence, he spent much time on preparation. Then, it was almost time to see the result. Kacha! Kacha! There was a soft noise from the void in front of him. The prohibition around the palace obviously had a lot of cracks. Almost, the master of Star Palace was excited, and the power of formation in his hand flowed out again. The entire Seven-Star Realm seemed to quiver slightly, and the prohibition outside the palace finally shattered into pieces. The door of the lofty palace immediately opened. Done! The master of Star Palace was filled with excitement. He immediately put away the formation that he had prepared. Then he stood up and walked into the palace. In the palace, there was nothing but boundless dark void. In the dark void, there was a star, a brilliant, complete star. The moment the master of Star Palace saw the star, his eyes dilated in surprise. He looked dumbfounded. Then, the brilliant star started spinning slowly. As it spun, boundless mysteries flowed towards the master of Star Palace. In his head, there was suddenly a boundless comprehension. The comprehension was too much, too vast. The master of Star Palace immediately started to take them in and digest. However, he was too slow in his disgust, ridiculously slow. One should know that the mysteries in his head involved forces and powers that were far beyond his reach. Such power wasn't something he could control. At the beginning, there wasn't much, and the master of Star Palace could barely take it. However, when the power increased by a few folds to a dozen folds, the master of Star Palace finally couldn't take it anymore. No, stop! Hurry up and stop! The master of Star Palace started roaring in madness, and his eyes became bloodshot. That very moment, he could only feel that he was going to explode. The mysteries in his head definitely could help him break through and become a great emperor. However, he only needed something very minor, maybe just a fraction of them. However, whatever that appeared in his head was far beyond his imagination. No extreme would hold strong for long. It was just like a glass that could only fill a bowl of water, but in the end it was forces with the entire lake. What would the result be? D***MN. Just as the mysteries in his head reached a limit, the master of Star Palace smiled bitterly, and he felt aggrieved from the bottom of his heart. Bang! 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 There were bangs from his body. The master of Star Palace's divine body started breaking apart very quickly. He knew that he was going to die. At first, he took painstaking efforts to get the opportunity in order to break through and become a great emperor for Lineage of Star. He had prepared for 500 million years to set up the formation to resolve another formation. Then, he had finally resolved the prohibition surrounding the palace. He had also obtained an opportunity. However, He had never expected one thing, which was that the opportunity was not something he qualified for. Forget about him. In the second era, in the entire eternal chaotic world, there was no one who qualified. The same applied to the strongest one in Sanctuary Alliance, Emperor Bai. Before he died, the Master of Star Palace had understood that, but it was too late. His divine body collapsed, and his consciousness started dispersing. The Master of Star Palace couldn't stop it. The only thing that he could do was to take out a few tokens. There were messages sent. I am in danger in 7-star realm. I am doomed. After I die, Jian Wushuang will be the new palace master for Lineage of Star. From then onwards, Lineage of Star will honor him. Jian Wushuang, the rise and fall of Lineage of Star depends on you. Yuan, Gu Xian, Nie Yun, the three of you, assist him with all you can. After the message, there was no sound to be heard anymore. The Master of Star Palace had died. The mainstay of Lineage of Star had collapsed. Chapter 1818. Travel back quickly. On the vast, ancient battlefield, in a strange vortex of sinisterness, Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged, with his eyes closed. He had already sat there for 300 years. In front of him, there was an image. In the image, there was a white-haired lady moving her finger and a sword shadow containing boundless rage substantiated in the air. She formed a sword with her willpower and swung it, without any movement or noises. In the void, tens of thousands of miles before her, the head of an ancient expert that had struck fear into Jian Wushuang stood was cut off. Phew! Jian Wushuang let out a deep sigh, and he slowly opened his eyes. I have been here to comprehend for 300 years, and my swordsmanship has improved tremendously. It's time to leave. Jian Wushuang smiled. He wandered in the ancient battlefield for 6,000 years. In the past 6,000 years, he had constantly visited places that Green Fire Palace, but was yet to have the ability to explore. During his search, he had received many opportunities. Any of the opportunities that he had received would be enviable by many. Jian Wushuang had had at least over a dozen times of opportunities in the past 6,000 years. That was the benefit of taking the entire ancient battlefield for himself. The opportunities had enabled Jian Wushuang to advance by leaps and bounds. Among them, the biggest help to Jian Wushuang was a cave dwelling. He had comprehended in the cave dwelling for 1,200 years. In the 1,200 years, he had gone into comprehension of the doctrine wholeheartedly. When he left, his comprehension of the space-time doctrine had been elevated to an unprecedented level. The special places that Green Fire Palace has found out over the years, I have searched through more than half of them. My next target will be here. Jian Wushuang took out Star Map and locked his gaze on a special place that was marked on Star Map. He was then prepared to set out to the next destination. Just then, there was a message that suddenly came in. Palace Master sent a message? Jian Wushuang was shocked, and he immediately skimmed through the message. In a short while, Jian Wushuang grew distressed. Palace Master is going to die. How is it possible? Jian Wushuang immediately replied the message in shock. However, there was no response from the other side of the token. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Master of Star Palace, the strongest reliance of Lineage of Star, a mainstay existence. He had founded Lineage of Star and led Lineage of Star to keep their footing in Sanctuary Alliance and the entire eternal chaotic world. Although Lineage of Star had offended many major forces and solo experts during the process, the major forces and experts were fearful but didn't dare to act hastily. Jian Wushuang adored such an existence greatly, but then Master of Star Palace had passed away. It is going to be chaos, Jian Wushuang muttered. Then there was another message. The person who had sent the message was Hall Master Yuan. He sent Jian Wushuang a short message. Travel back quickly. Jian Wushuang stared when he received the message. He immediately gave up the idea of exploring the ancient battlefield and returned to Green Fire World. After he had returned to Green Fire World, Jian Wushuang immediately found Jian Nantian. Father, Eternal Chaotic World is going through a drastic change. I have to rush back immediately. Hence Green Fire World and Wushuang City shall be passed to you. Jian Wushuang said. A drastic change. Jian Nantian's face grew dim. He had never been to Eternal Chaotic World, and he didn't know about anything in Eternal Chaotic World. However, he understood that something major must have happened, which had made Jian Wushuang so anxious. I will leave some Dao Soldiers here. The Dao Soldiers will help you to better control Green Fire World, Jian Wushuang said. 6,000 years had passed. The spiritual energy in Green Fire World had become even more intense. During these years, Green Fire World had had a major increase in experts too. Of Universe God alone, Green Fire World had a total of a few hundred. The strongest of them all was still Jian Nantian. One should know that Jian Nantian was truly a sword genius, but due to the damage of his foundation when he was younger and also the imperfect cultivation environment, his achievement was limited. However, it was different then. Jian Wushuang already used some natural treasure to recover Jian Nantian's damage on his foundation entirely. Plus, Green Fire World's cultivation environment was much better than the 10 sanctuaries. Under such conditions, Jian Nantian's power had improved tremendously in the past 6,000 years. He already passed his third god's test and reached the top limit of a universe god in the third heaven. As soon as the time came, he could break through and become a real god. With Jian Nantian's power and the addition of Dao Soldiers, they could ensure Green Fire World's peace. After delegating the task, Jian Wushuang woke up Jian Yi, who had been recovering his power in seclusion. Then, he brought along the rest of the Dao Soldiers as he left. The ancient spaceship drove through the huge formation and shook off the space-time storm very quickly. In the spaceship cabin, Jian Wushuang, Jian Yi, and Qiu Yu sat. As for He Xiu, as he passed the test that Jian Wushuang had left in Wushuang City, he had become Jian Wushuang's lineal disciple. After that, he had left Green Fire World to wander outside. He Xiu then was already in the third place of the Universe God ranking list in Eternal Chaotic World, and he was even challenging the first and second place on the list. Jian Wushuang was happy with his disciple. Jian Yi, how did your recovery of power go? Jian Wushuang asked. Master, I have already resumed the middle stage chaotic realm. Jian Yi replied respectfully. Oh. Jian Wushuang's eyes grew bright. Middle stage chaotic realm was the level of an emperor god in Eternal Chaotic World. One should know that when Jian Yi was at beginner stage chaotic realm, with his comprehension of doctrine and possession of various skills, his fighting power had already been astonishing. Now, Jian Yi was much more powerful than when he had fought with Jian Wushuang back then. Jian Yi is an ancient expert, and he carries many skills. Now that he has recovered his power to middle stage chaotic realm, his power has definitely increased tremendously. I wonder which level he reached, Jian Wushuang muttered. Jian Wushuang found it difficult to gauge Jian Yi's power. After all, ancient times and the second era that he was in were completely different. Even the names of the realms were different. Regardless, Jian Yi is a helping hand to me. He might even be my lethal tactic. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. As Palace Master had died, there would definitely be a lot of issues. As he was the new master that Master of Star Palace had determined, he had to deal with all the issues in Lineage of Star. The ancient spaceship that Jian Wushuang drove was traveling at its top speed to Lineage of Star. Chapter 1819 Lineage of Star's Danger. Lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang, Qiuyu, and Jian Yi appeared in the boundless galaxy. Qiuyu, bring Jian Yi back to Sword Star first. Jian Wushuang commanded. Yes, Qiuyu nodded politely. Then she followed Jian Yi back to Sword Star. Jian Wushuang plunged to the cave dwelling that Hall Master Yuan and the others were waiting at. On the way back, Jian Wushuang met some disciples and elders of Lineage of Star. That's Hall Master Wushuang? Didn't Hall Master Wushuang say that he was going back to his hometown? Why did he return so soon? Not only Hall Master Wushuang, Hall Master Guexan, Hall Master Niayun rushed back not too long ago as well. Did something happen? Humph. Regardless, as long as our palace master and our hall masters are here, there's nothing major. That's true. There was no tension in Lineage of Star. It was obvious that the news about the master of Star Palace's death had yet to spread. In a lofty hall, there was a vast grayish void. There were 4 lofty thrones floating in the void. The 4 persons on the thrones, including Jian Wushuang, looked angry yet sorrowful. Master of Star Palace is so powerful, and he has the secret of Star Palace on hand. He couldn't easily give play to fighting power of a great emperor in an instant. How can he die? Hall Master Niayun looked in disbelief. Master of Star Palace, how did he die? Hall Master Guexan said in a deep voice. Master of Star Palace died, and all of us are in pain. However, it isn't the right time for this. Even the reason behind the death of Master of Star Palace shouldn't be our main focus. We should focus on what Lineage of Star should do without Master of Star Palace attending garrison duty personally. Hall Master Yuan's voice resounded. Although what he said was cruel, it was the truth. The Master of Star Palace had already died, and that was a fact. Lineage of Star couldn't divert their attention to look for the reason behind Master of Star Palace's death. Lineage of Star has too many enemies in eternal chaotic world. Back when Master of Star Palace first founded Lineage of Star, he even carried out a massacre once and offended many major forces and solo experts. As there was Master of Star Palace in the commanding position previously, the major forces and solo experts didn't dare to make any funny moves. But then, if they were to find out the news about Master of Star Palace's death, they definitely would jump out and even swarm toward Lineage of Star, Hall Master Yuan said in a low voice. Plus, those aren't the main opponents that Lineage of Star going to face. Then, Jian Wushuang and the other 2 Hall Masters turned to look at Hall Master Yuan. Before Master of Star Palace headed to ancient Mystery Land, he told me that Lineage of Star was in a terrible state, not only because we have many enemies, but is also because of some things that Lineage of Star possesses that made everyone green with envy. Firstly, their secret skill of Star Palace. Hall Master Yuan sounded solemn. Secret skill of Star Palace is something Master of Star Palace obtained from the ancient Mystery Land. It is from a scary sect, 7-star black sect, in ancient times. You should be able to tell the power of the secret skill. It is definitely one of the killer moves of Lineage of Star. With such a terrifying secret skill, of course, he attracted many people who are green with envy. Like Master of Star Palace mentioned before, not only do many forces and experts desire to get the secret skill, but also Sanctuary Alliance, including the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance. They once found Master of Star Palace to discuss it, but Master of Star Palace refused to. Jian Wushuang was then shocked. The higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance, weren't they the super existences of great emperor level? Even great emperors cast greedy eyes over the secret skill of Star Palace. B** starred. The secret skill was obtained by Master of Star Palace through blood, sweat, and tears from the ancient Mystery Land. It was because of Master of Star Palace's capability. How dare they cast greedy eyes over it? If they were capable enough, they could get a similar secret skill from the ancient Mystery Land too. Hall, Master Nya Yun roared. Of course, he was merely ranting. Besides the secret skill of Star Palace, we of Lineage of Star also received a white blaze fruit tree over the years. The white blaze fruit tree is priceless too. Although it is nothing much to experts who are great emperor level, it is enough to make many major forces go crazy. Forget about the others. Over the years, there was a total of 3 almighties who came to visit personally and paid a great price in exchange for white blaze fruit. In turn, we of Lineage of Star benefited well from it. It has only been tens of thousands of years. Hearing what Hall Master Yuan had said, Jian Wushuang and the other 2 Hall Masters' faces grew in distress. White blaze fruit tree was truly a treasure. In merely tens of thousands of years, it had already brought about many benefits to Lineage of Star. If it were to remain in Lineage of Star for few million years, the benefit for Lineage of Star would be even greater. The major forces in Eternal Chaotic World were of course dying for a white blaze fruit tree. A man's wealth is his own ruin by causing others greed. Because of the secret skill of Star Palace and the white blaze fruit tree, Lineage of Star was eyed by many forces and experts long ago. Now that Master of Star Palace has passed away, some major forces or solo experts, even those who didn't share any resentment with Lineage of Star, would inevitably attack us as Lineage of Star is going through a drastic incident. Besides, there's another huge potential threat in Lineage of Star. Hall Master Yuan continued. More. Jian Wushuang and the other 2 Hall Masters' faces grew grave. The potential threat is you, Jian Wushuang. Hall Master Yuan looked at Jian Wushuang. Me. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Yes. Hall Master Yuan nodded and explained, maybe you didn't notice yourself. Your speed of growth is too fast, and you have too great of a potential. Plus, you are an inverse cultivator. Merely as a real god, you could already match evenly with an emperor god. It is definitely right and proper to call you the #1 real god. In such a situation, if you were to obtain the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill and break through to become an almighty, your fighting power should be comparable to a great emperor. Once you're steady, your footstep among almighties, and continue to increase your power, you might even become the 2nd emperor by. But you must know that Sanctuary Alliance isn't that united. There are many forces and experts that have internal fights, but Sanctuary Alliance doesn't get involved in it. Your growth. Although many are looking forward to it, there are also some selfish people who didn't anticipate your growth. After all, Emperor Bai alone has already brought pressure to many of them, who would wish for the 2nd Emperor Bai in Sanctuary Alliance. Hearing what Hall Master Yuan had said, Jian Wushuang suddenly understood. Around Emperor Bai, who could kill a great emperor with ease, many great emperors in Sanctuary Alliance were careful, and no one dared to act wildly. Another Emperor Bai. Unfortunately, there were not many who were willing to see that. Chapter 18:20 New Palace Master. Hall Master Yuan's bright and clear voice reverberated in the entire hall. Lineage of Star is now facing the biggest danger in history. Not only from those forces and experts who harbor deep-seated hatred against Lineage of Star, but we also have to watch out for the forces and experts who have cast greedy eyes over the secret skill of Star Palace and White Blaze Fruit Tree. Besides, there are also people who didn't hope for Jian Wushuang to grow stronger and want to kill him ahead of time. Once the news about Palace Master's death spreads, they might all turn into jackals and wolves and charge at Lineage of Star. Hearing what Hall Master Yuan had said, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Nie Yun, and Hall Master Guexan looked solemn. The reason why Palace Master did everything possible to obtain the opportunity in Seven-Star Realm was that he saw the hidden danger in Lineage of Star. The danger has revealed itself gradually over the recent years. Hence, Master Palace wanted to break through and become a great emperor through the opportunities. Only when a great emperor attends garrison duty personally could he ensure Lineage of Star's safety. But it is a pity that Palace Master passed away because of this. Then Hall Master Yuan clenched his hands, and his body quivered. The other 3 Hall Master felt extremely distressed as well. Especially Jian Wushuang, Master of Star Palace, had been in a hurry to become a great emperor, most likely was to protect him. Hall Master Yuan took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He then announced solemnly, before Palace Master passed away, he sent the 4 of us a message. According to his order, from today onwards, Jian Wushuang will be the new Master of Star Palace. Gu Xian, Nia Yun, do you have any opinion about this? No, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nia Yin replied without hesitation. Jian Wushuang's talent and power were on display. He was listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Plus, all his contributions to Lineage of Star were well known too. The White Blaze Fruit Tree had been obtained by Jian Wushuang alone, as they were satisfied with all aspects, and it had been an order from the Master of Star Palace before he died. They naturally didn't have any objection. If so, Hall Master Yuan turned to bow at Jian Wushuang. Yuan greets Palace Master. Gushi greets Palace Master. Nia Yun greets Palace Master. The 3 Hall Masters bowed at Jian Wushuang with great respect. Please get up, Jian Wushuang waved, and the 3 of them got up. At such a crucial moment, I shall not behave unreasonably. From today, I will be the new Palace Master of Lineage of Star. The danger and difficulties that Lineage of Star is going to encounter, I will be the first to take them on. Jian Wushuang's voice was bright and clear, with a tinge of determination. Then, he waved and 2 flowing lights appeared in the hall. The 2 flowing lights were 2 brawny figures. One was bronze-armored, and the other one was silver-armored. Palace Master, this is... The 3 Hall Masters looked confused. These are Dao Soldiers. I brought them back. Their nature is similar to a war puppet's. The only difference is that they are more powerful. Hall Master Nie Yun, go ahead and try them yourself. Try their power. Jian Wushuang smiled, faintly. All right, Hall Master Nie Yun nodded. In the lofty hall, Hall Master Nie Yun fought with the 2 Dao Soldiers. He first fought with the bronze-armored Dao Soldier. Although the Dao Soldier wasn't weak, it didn't know close combat skills. When it was fighting with Hall Master Nie Yun, it was hit and flew off from Hall Master Nie Yun's attack. However, the bronze-armored Dao Soldier flew out over 10 times, but didn't seem to take any damage. Hall Master Nie Yun stopped very soon. Ha! This Dao Soldiers was quite durable. I hit it so many times, and it was still complete. Hall Master Nie Yun laughed heartily. Try another one. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, very soon, Hall Master Nie Yun and the silver-armored Dao Soldiers fought. Then, Hall Master Nie Yun wasn't as at ease as before. One should know that silver-armored Dao Soldier's power was at the level of an emperor god. Even though it only knew simple attacks, it cornered Hall Master Nie Yun badly. Hall Master Nie Yun had already showed all his power, but he continued to retreat from the Dao Soldier's attack. Stop, stop! Hall Master Nie Yun shouted. Jian Wushuang immediately commanded the silver-armored Dao Soldier to stop. How is it? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Very strong, this war puppet. No, this Dao soldier. His attack was too strong and has definitely already reached the level of Emperor God. Such a Dao soldier might not be comparable with a true Emperor God, but it is definitely stronger than some top Sir Gods, Hall Master Nie Yun said. Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xian nodded their heads by the side. Although they had never fought with the Dao soldiers, they could see from the exchange between the Dao soldiers and Hall Master Nie Yun. I have to tell the three of you, I have quite a few of these Dao soldiers on hand, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. What? Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian, and Hall Master Nie Yun were stunned and immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Palace Master, when you said quite a few, how many is a few? Hall Master Yuan asked. Firstly, I have 100 of bronze-armored Dao soldiers. As for silver-armored Dao soldiers, I have less. I only have 4 of them, Jian Wushuang replied. Back then, he had taken 132 Dao soldiers from around Wuhan's dead body. However, during the time when he was wandering in the past 6,000 years, as he had needed some Dao soldiers to explore the way, he had damaged some. On top of that, he had also left some Dao soldiers in Greenfire World before he left. Hence, he had only brought back 104 Dao soldiers when he had returned to Lineage of Star. 104 Dao soldiers. Hall Master Yuan was dumbfounded. Or it should be said that he was shocked by the unexpected surprise. Although the bronze-armored Dao soldiers weren't strong, its power was definitely at a Sir God level. As long as 4 to 5 joined forces, they should be able to match evenly with a Sir God. Jian Wushuang had 100 such Dao soldiers. In other words, Jian Wushuang controlled the fighting power of about 20 Sir Gods. Besides, there were 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers. The silver-armored Dao soldiers had the power of an Emperor God. One of them could easily suppress Hall Master Nie Yun. The total of all Dao soldiers would be a fierce force. Hall Master Yuan took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in himself. He asked, Palace Master, where did you get these Dao soldiers? Let's not talk about how I got them for now. In short, I control all the Dao soldiers, and they definitely follow my commands. Besides, I took control of another expert via a unique method. He is now my sword servant, and I brought him back to Lineage of Star as well. He is now in Sword Star. As for his power, he is slightly stronger than I am now, Jian Wushuang said. Chapter 1821. Universe Galaxy hearing what Jian Wushuang said, Hall Master Yuan and the other 2 Hall Masters gawked. Jian Wushuang was an expert on the 61st place on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. He had absolute fighting power of an Emperor God, but his servant was more powerful than he was. That's great. Another fighting power of Emperor God. Hall Master Yuan exclaimed in surprise. With so many Dao soldiers and a powerful servant, Palace Master, you brought about a great surprise to Lineage of Star indeed. Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nie Yun was excited. However, the 3 of them never paid attention to what Jian Wushuang said. He is stronger than I am now. One should know that Jian Wushuang had received countless opportunities as he wandered alone in the ancient battlefield for 6,000 years. He had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he was no longer comparable to how he was before, while Jian Yi was even stronger than he was then. How could Jian Yi's fighting power be as simple as an ordinary Emperor God? Palace Master, Hall Master Gu Xian, Hall Master Nie Yun, there's another thing that I have to tell you, Hall Master Yuan suddenly said. Jian Wushuang and the other 2 Hall Masters immediately looked at Hall Master Yuan again. Actually, there is another trump card in Lineage of Star, Hall Master Yuan said. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and revealed a shocked expression. Hall Master Yuan started explaining The three of you should know that I am very special in Lineage of Star. According to Lineage of Star's rules, only one who possesses fighting power of an almighty could become a Hall Master. However, I am not an almighty, nor do I have fighting power of an almighty, but I became a Hall Master. Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Gu Xian, and Hall Master Nie Yun were interested in what Hall Master Yuan was going to say. They were curious about Hall Master Yuan's existence. They had tried asking before, but Hall Master Yuan never answered. My identity is supposed to be a secret. In Lineage of Star, only Master of Star Palace knows. However, it is a crucial moment, and I cannot hide anymore. Everyone, please take a look, Hall Master Yuan said as he let out a unique aura from his body. The aura spread outside the hall and blended with the boundless galaxy flawlessly. This is Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Niu Yun were dumbfounded. Weapon Spirit. Jian Wushuang were shocked. Yes, the aura that Hall Master Yuan gave out then only belonged to Spirit's weapon. Plus, his aura blended flawlessly with the boundless galaxy that Lineage of Star was in. In other words, Hall Master Yuan was the weapon spirit of the boundless galaxy. How could it be? Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nie Yun were in disbelief. They had been making wild guesses about Hall Master Yuan's identity before, but they had never expected Hall Master Yuan to be a weapon spirit. Looking at the few people's reactions, Hall Master Yuan wasn't surprised, but he smiled and said, "Everyone, do you remember that Master of Star Palace once mentioned before he left to go to ancient Mystery Land? He said that back when he went to Seven Star Realm, not only had he found the secret skill of Seven Star, but he also obtained a unique treasure. The unique treasure is me, the boundless galaxy that engulfed the lair of Lineage of Star. However, my real name is actually Universe Galaxy." The three of them were dumbfounded at the newfound knowledge. The boundless galaxy that Lineage of Star was located in was really unique. Not only could it nurture a meta beast on its own, but the spiritual influence of heaven and earth and intensity of doctrine were also much stronger than other places. However, they never once thought that the galaxy was a treasure from ancient Mystery Land. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and smiled. "Hall Master Yuan, you kept the secret well. I had no choice. My existence is unique, and it isn't common. If this were to be exposed, the people who cast greedy eyes over the treasure and resources of Lineage of Star would be even more," Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang understood too. At the same time, he finally knew why Hall Master Yuan's position in Lineage of Star was so unique. As a weapon spirit, he was of course absolutely loyal to Master of Star Palace. The Master of Star Palace was also at ease when he passed the affairs in Lineage of Star to Hall Master Yuan. Although the outside world knew of Hall Master Yuan's existence, they had never once seen Hall Master Yuan fight because Hall Master Yuan almost never left Lineage of Star. Even if he were to head out, it was merely his consciousness embodiment. "Hall Master Yuan, you said earlier that your existence was also the trump card of Lineage of Star. How does it work?" Hall Master Nie Yun asked. "Universe Galaxy that I made isn't as simple as you imagine it to be. The power that is displayed on a normal day is merely a fraction of it. If there were to be strong enemies that came to attack, Universe Galaxy could turn into a formation. Unless a great emperor came personally, there won't be anyone who could barge into the galaxy," Hall Master Yuan said with confidence. Jian Wushuang and the other two Hall Master were thrilled. "Ha! I never knew that Lineage of Star had another powerful trump card," Hall Master Nie Yun laughed. "Only when a great emperor comes personally could he resolve the formation. If there was no real reason, why would a great emperor come to Lineage of Star personally? With this trump card, no matter what kind of danger we are in, at least Lineage of Stars base can be maintained. Hall Master Gu Xian smiled too. Hall Master Yuan then said regretfully, "It is a pity that I was severely damaged during the war. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth in this world is so thin that I have yet to recover. If I were to be able to recover parts of my power, the benefits that Lineage of Star wouldn't be limited as it is now." Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nya Yin didn't react much to what he said, but Jian Wushuang quivered in surprise. Spiritual influence of heaven and earth. The spiritual influence of heaven and earth in Green Fire World was much stronger than 10 cultivation sanctuaries. Along with the formation, it was on a constant increase. If he were to be able to move universe galaxy there, of course, it was merely a thought that Jian Wushuang had. With these trump cards, if Lineage of Star were to be in trouble, we should be confident enough. Jian Wushuang smiled and turned to ask, "Hall Master Yuan, the news about Master of Star Palace's death has yet to spread, right?" "Besides the few of us, no one else knows." Hall Master Yuan nodded. "However, even if we hide the news on purpose, people will find out in no time. After all, Sanctuary Alliance has experts keeping watch outside the Ancient Mystery Land. Whoever enters Ancient Mystery Land but doesn't come out from Ancient Mystery Land is recorded. Now that the Ancient Mystery Land is still open, naturally, no one knows. However, when the Ancient Mystery Land closes, Sanctuary Alliance will notice that the Master of Star Palace didn't come out, and they'd 80% determine that the Master of Star Palace had passed away then. If so, we still have time to prepare ourselves." Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Chapter 1822 Desperate Times Call for Desperate Measures. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian, Hall Master Nya Yun. Jian Wushuang looked around. Before the news of Master of Star Palace's death breaks out, we shouldn't disclose the news of me being the new palace master. In front of the elderlies, continue to call me Hall Master Wushuang, just like before. We shall hide this news for as long as possible. Yes, Hall Master Yuan and the other Hall Masters nodded politely. Besides, I have an idea. Am not sure if it is workable, Jian Wushuang said. Idea? The three of them looked at Jian Wushuang. Hall Master Yuan, according to what you said earlier, Lineage of Star has a lot of enemies. Once the news about Palace Master's death spreads, the enemies will flood in. If so, instead of waiting for them to attack, why not we try our best to exterminate all the enemies before the news spreads? Jian Wushuang's gaze grew cold. You mean strike first and gain the upper hand? Hall Master Yuan was stunned. Yes, Jian Wushuang nodded. Anyway, after the news spreads, they'll definitely attack us. Why don't we seize the time when everyone thinks Master of Star Palace is still alive and ride on the deterrent force as we figure out ways to exterminate them first? Even if we can't kill them all, we can at least take off part of the pressure when they charge at us in the future. Plus, these people were Lineage of Star's enemies anyway. We of Lineage of Star could kill them, and it would be fair and reasonable. That's true, Hall Master Yuan's eyes glowed with joy. If we kill them one by one during normal times, there is no guarantee that they would hold back their attacks, as they would involve other innocent people to refrain from shooting at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. In the end, they might unite to fight against Lineage of Star. But at this point in time, as they're going to attack us anyway, so we shall take action first and exterminate as many as possible. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Jian Wushuang's expression was cold. Hall Master Yuan, I shall assign this to you. Those major forces, we shall not take them into consideration now. We want to first deal with those solo experts. Figure out a way to find out the location of all of the solo experts that harbor hatred against Lineage of Star. If Lineage of Star can't find out the information, bring sufficient rewards and ask Vientiane Tower to do it. In this life and death situation, we shouldn't be stingy. Take out everything Lineage of Star has. This must be done quickly. After we find out their locations, I will exterminate the Almighties personally. As for real gods, Hall Master Guexayan and Hall Master Nieyun, please take care of them. No problem. Yes, Palace Master. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Guexayan, Hall Master Nieyun nodded heavily. Hall Masters, let me remind you again. Lineage of Star is on the brink of life and death. Hence, you must be extremely careful in your actions. Jian Wushuang looked at the 3 Hall Masters, then he waved. Go ahead. The 3 Hall Masters then immediately left. In the hall, Jian Wushuang sat alone, and his gaze was unusually cold. I never expected Lineage of Star to have so many hidden dangers. Master of Star Palace alone carried so much pressure. He was an amazing man. But now, Master of Star Palace has passed away. As I have become the new Palace Master, this pressure will be on me. As long as I am alive, no one can lay a finger on Lineage of Star. Lineage of Star really paid a great price. They gave Vientiane Tower a great reward. With the bountiful reward, Vientiane Tower had activated the information gathering mechanism. They then found the solo experts that harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star. Very soon, a list of solo experts was presented to Jian Wushuang. Palace Master, these are the experts who have harbored deep-seated hatred against Lineage of Star over the years, and they will definitely pound at Lineage of Star the moment the news about Master of Star Palace's death spreads. There is a total of 16 of them, Hall Master Yuan said politely. 16? So many? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. The list doesn't stop there. Hall Master Yuan shook his head and said, these 16 solo experts were only those that Vientiane Tower found for now. There are some that disappeared long ago. No one knows if they are dead or alive. It is rather difficult to find them. Jian Wushuang sighed. Lineage of Star really had many enemies. Of course, not only Lineage of Star. Any major forces who stood in eternal chaotic world for so many years would have many enemies. Lineage of Star had many enemies because the Master of Star Palace had once used the secret skill of Star Palace to massacre wantonly 16 experts made up of 14 Sir Gods and 2 Emperor Gods. Jian Wushuang said, I shall move now to kill the experts. Palace Master, please be careful on the way. Hall Master Yuan exhorted. Jian Wushuang had then replaced the Master of Star Palace and became the new mainstay of Lineage of Star. The mainstay definitely couldn't afford to collapse. Otherwise, Lineage of Star would definitely be destroyed, and there would be no space for struggle. I will. Jian Wushuang nodded and prepared to set off. Of course, he brought Jian Yi with him when he departed. With his power and existence of Jian Yi, when they looked for the people on the list one by one, there was almost no one who could escape if there weren't any unexpected events. The first target, Sir God Xingxiang. He is the nearest to Lineage of Star. He is in Red Dragon Sanctuary in the 10 Sanctuaries. Rumble. The ancient silver spaceship traveled from Universe Galaxy in Lineage of Star at a terrifying speed and sped forward. Red Dragon Sanctuary was engulfed in a huge ancient forest. There was a lofty black castle. The black castle was huge, and it covered an expanse of about a few million miles. Such a huge castle had more than 100,000 maidservants and footmen. At that moment, in the middle of the black castle, there was a banquet. At the banquet, there were a few hundred beautiful concubines dancing and serving. The main character of the banquet was an overbearing, bearded man in black armor. The man was Sir God Xingxiang. He had become a famous top expert many years ago, although he couldn't be listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. He was extremely close to it. Besides Sir God Xingxiang, there were another two Sir Gods at the banquet. The two Sir Gods' auras weren't any weaker than Sir God Xingxiang's. Rumble! A huge silver spaceship appeared in the void before the castle. A young man carrying a sword stepped out of the spaceship. The moment he appeared, he swept out with his soul power. He looked at everything in the castle below. Sir God Sangyu and Sir God Qisha are here too? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows as an imposing aura soared from his eyes. I don't care about them. Whoever blocks my way, I will kill them altogether. Chapter 1823 Extermination. In the depth of the Black Castle at the dinner banquet. Brother Sangyu, Brother Qisha, thank you so much, Sir God Xingxiang said heartily with a cup of wine in his hand. No big deal, Brother Xingxiang. It's as easy as lifting a hand. It's nothing. Plus, we are friends, Sir God Qisha said. I work for rewards. Sir God Xingxiang, you offered enough rewards, and I would, of course, do my best. Sir God Sangyu smiled gently. Ha! Brother Sangyu was very realistic. Sir God Xingxiang laughed. The three Sir Gods were chatting casually. Suddenly, Sir God Xingxiang, come out and greet death. The bright and loud voice that contained a terrifying pressure instantly covered the entire castle. It was extremely imposing. Countless maids and servants in the castle were shivering in fear because of the pressure. There were some beauties who were dancing at the banquet who knelt down in terror as well. The three of them who had been chatting earlier suddenly looked unhappy. The smile on Sir God Xingxiang's face froze. Hung, hung, hung. There were three fierce auras that burst out simultaneously. The three Sir Gods soared up and appeared in the void above. They stopped and instantly noticed the young man carrying a sword. Real God! Sir God Sangyu was surprised. Although he is only a real god, his aura is terrifyingly strong, much stronger than the three of ours. If I'm not mistaken, he should be the super genius from Lineage of Star Jian Wushuang, who was listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Sword Emperor, the 61st place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Sir God Qisha squinted his eyes. On the other hand, Sir God Xingxiang's face grew grave. Jian Wushuang, you have guts. Your Lineage of Star once killed 3 of my lineal disciples. I didn't find trouble with you, but you barged into my place. Humph, that's because you assassinated one of Lineage of Star's expert first. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold. Save that bullshit. I came here today to kill you. Ha! You put it in such a nice way. Who do you think you are? The old monster of Star Palace? Sir God Xingxiang sneered as he looked at the other 2 persons next to him. Brother Sangyu, Brother Qisha, Lineage of Star is being such a bully. I wonder if the 2 of you are willing to lend a helping hand. I, Xingxiang, will remember what you did. If there were to be any help needed in the future, I would not refuse to help. Although Sir God Xingxiang was reluctant to admit inferiority, he knew that it was impossible for him to match evenly with Jian Wushuang, who was listed on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list that possess fighting power of an emperor god alone. Hence, he naturally dragged in the other 2 Sir Gods next to him. The 2 Sir Gods were like him. They were top Sir Gods, especially Sir God Sangyu, who was also listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list as a Sir God, but at a lower rank. He once fought with an emperor god, and he survived. In addition, there was Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha. The 3 of them teamed up might not be able to do anything to Jian Wushuang, but they definitely could fight a battle with Jian Wushuang. Hearing what Sir God Xiangxiang had to say, Sir God Qisha agreed without hesitation. Brother Xingxiang, Don't worry about it. If Jian Wushuang wants to lay a finger on you, he has to receive approval from the two of us." Sir God Sangyu hesitated for a while, but he replied, "Jian Wushuang, Qi Sha, and I accepted Xing Xiang's invitation to be here. We have yet to take care of the task on hand. I can't let you kill him, so please leave. If you won't leave, stay, and die together." Jian Wushuang had soaring murderous intention. Arrogant, Sir God Qisha was furious. "Jian Wushuang, you are too arrogant." Sir God Sangyu was furious too. "Ha ha, as Jian Wushuang is asking for trouble, the three of us shall grant his wish." Sir God Xing Xiang smirked coldly. Instantly, the three figures turned into 3 rays of flowing lights that burst out. The 3 of them knew Jian Wushuang's power, and they didn't dare to act recklessly. The moment they attacked, they went all out. Sir God Xing Xiang's body was covered by a layer of magic clouds, while there were 8 ancient shadows that appeared behind him. The 8 ancient shadows were huge, and his body increased to 3 meters tall. With a malicious smile, the 8 ancient shadows pressed at Jian Wushuang with boundless, terrifying aura. Sir God Qisha was soaring with imposing aura. His body moved, and there was instantly a huge storm around him. Boundless, murderous aura swept out. Die, die, die. A soaring sword in tension filled the air while he held a creepy crimson blade and turned illusionary in silence. Sir God Sangyu, who was the strongest, suddenly increased in size to 10 zhang tall. He was showering in warm sunlight as though he was the ruler of the universe. He was wearing a gentle smile, and everyone found it friendly. However, he already had strong divine power concentrated in his hands. The bolt of divine power was enough to split the sky and break the earth. Looking at the 3 Sir God launching attacks at the same time, Jian Wushuang's eyes burst out lights. Courting death. Jian Wushuang roared without taking a step back, and he flipped his palm. There was billowing divine power with ancient tribe bloodline power that suddenly burst out to his ultimate limit. Hum! He swung his palm. It was as though his palm contained the entire reincarnation. It was reincarnation palm derived from the terrifying palm that 1-star man had left in his head the other day. Walala! The void shattered, and a huge palm print extended and grabbed Sir God Xingxiang at the far front. Sir God Xingxiang let out an angry roar, and the 8 ancient shadows behind him let out an earth-shattering roar as well. However, the very next moment, it stopped. The huge palm print that contained the entire reincarnation covered Sir God Xingxiang's body, including the 8 ancient shadows altogether, and it gripped tightly. Bang! The 8 ancient shadows collapsed at the same time. Sir God Xingxiang only let out a groan in pain at his last moment before his divine body was crushed under the palm. With one palm, Sir God Xingxiang died on the spot. How is it possible? Sir God Sangyu and Sir God Qisha stared. They knew that Jian Wushuang was powerful and possessed fighting power of an emperor god. Hence, the 3 of them had teamed up. However, Jian Wushuang had ignored the 2 of them and killed Sir God Xingxiang with one simple palm. Such power! Be careful! Sir God Sang, you suddenly spoke in terror. What? Sir God Qisha's face grew grave. Just as he came back to reality, there was a resplendent golden light that appeared behind him. The golden light gave out a boundless, chilly, brilliant gleam. It was Jian Wushuang's Hongjun golden sword. There was only one Hongjun golden sword, but that one sword made Sir God Qisha feel instant hopelessness. Psst! A golden light swept past, and Hongjun golden sword pierced Sir God Qisha's head straightway. Sir God Qisha's power had yet to be displayed. The surrounding storm had yet to burst out, but he had already followed Sir God Xingxiang's footstep to death. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang's body turned illusory, and he appeared before Sir God Songyu in the end. Chapter 1824. Spare my life, the entire universe became quiet. Sir God Songyu, who was still bathing in the sunlight, originally wore a gentle smile, but then he couldn't smile anymore. The three top Sir Gods had joined forces, but in the end, in the blink of an eye, Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha were instantly killed. Too strong. He was too strong. Sir God Songyu stared at Jian Wushuang. The two of them are top Sir Gods. Even if a true Emperor God came, it would require some time before they killed them. But Jian Wushuang did an instant kill. A top Sir God couldn't even struggle in his hands. With such power, I'm afraid he is extremely close to peak Emperor God level. Previously, Sir God Songyu, Sir God Qisha, and Sir God Xingxiang had thought Jian Wushuang was still only the expert in the 61st place in Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list who could evenly match Emperor God Tianshao. They didn't know how greatly Jian Wushuang had improved in the past 6,000 years. Forget about the rest. His possession of ancient tribe bloodline by bloodline inheritance from Wuhan, and with his power of bloodline in combination with his divine power, Jian Wushuang was 2 times stronger than an emperor god in terms of power and strength. With such ferocious power and strength, any casual reincarnation palm could exterminate Sir God Xingxiang like slaughtering a chicken. It was true. To Jian Wushuang, killing a top Sir God was too easy. There was no difference to killing a chicken. Sir God Songyu took a deep breath and flashed a smile. At the same time, he bowed politely to Jian Wushuang. Thank you for your mercy, Sword Emperor. Sir God Songyu knew that Jian Wushuang could easily kill him in an instant if he wanted to. Although he had once survived a fight with an Emperor God, the Emperor God was just the weakest of his level. He couldn't be compared favorably with Jian Wushuang. But the fact Jian Wushuang didn't attack meant that Jian Wushuang didn't intend to kill him. It is because of Purple Sky Palace and Emperor God Zitsong that I spare you. I hope that there won't be a repeat of what happened today. Jian Wushuang said coldly. Yes, Sir God Song. You nodded continuously. Jian Wushuang waved and took Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha's dead bodies and their treasures. Then he left. Sir God Songyu then let out a sigh of relief after he watched Jian Wushuang's figure disappeared from his sight. Gate of Hell. Songyu just took a trip to the Gate of Hell. Luckily, I am fortunate enough. It seems that Sword Emperor wasn't as aggressive and lawless as he was pictured in the rumors. He had scruples with Purple Sky Palace and Emperor God Zitsong. Sir God Songyu muttered. The 3 top Sir Gods. Sir God Xingxiang was Jian Wushuang's target, so he had to be killed. Sir God Qisha was merely a solo expert, and he had no background. Hence, Jian Wushuang could kill him with no scruples. But the 2 Sir Gods were different to him. They had a backer, so Jian Wushuang let them off the hook. However, with Jian Wushuang's power and lineage of star behind him, even if he killed me, Purple Sky Palace couldn't do anything about him, even if they were furious. What is his concern? Sir God Songyu was confused, but he immediately reported what had happened to Emperor God Zitsong behind him. Songyu, you teamed up with Sir God Qisha and Sir God Xingxiang, but Jian Wushuang instantly killed the other 2? Emperor God Zitsong was surprised at the news. Yes, Jian Wushuang is terrifyingly powerful, far stronger than when he fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace 6,000 years ago. Sir God Songyu said, Thanks. He is truly an expert. In just a short time span, his power increased to another level. Maybe to us, 6,000 years is only a snap of our fingers. But to Jian Wushuang, 6,000 years is enough for him to improve tremendously. Emperor Zitsong sighed. According to the power that he displayed, he should be listed in the top 50 or 40 on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Such a figure shouldn't be provoked. Luckily, he left you some leeway and didn't kill you. Otherwise, Purple Sky Palace really couldn't do anything about him. Palace Master, isn't Jian Wushuang devoid of scruples, all this while, and willing to fight over the smallest trifles? I took the initiative to provoke him, but he spared my life. Why? Did he really hesitate because of Purple Sky Palace? Sir God Song, you asked in confusion. Who knows? As he showed mercy, Purple Sky Palace shall accept it. From today, do not become hostile towards Lineage of Star. Even if Lineage of Star's disciples were to be in our hands, we shall let them off the hook. Emperor God Zit Song said. I understand. Sir God Song Yu nodded, just as Sir God Song Yu was talking to Sir God Zit Song. Jian Wushuang had already left Red Dragon's sanctuary via a wormhole and departed to his next destination. As for the reason he had showed mercy to Sir God Song Yu, it wasn't because Jian Wushuang had a good temper and was easy to talk to, but because Lineage of Star was in a different situation. When the Master of Star Palace was still around, all forces had scruples. Jian Wushuang could just kill Sir God Song Yu, but then the Master of Star Palace had passed away. Even a slight bit of the news spreading would attract many forces and experts to attack instantly. At such a crucial moment, Jian Wushuang naturally tried not to offend any major forces. For instance, Purple Sky Palace was considered a major force, and there was an Emperor God who was in commanding position. Although Emperor God Zit Song's power was ordinary, Jian Wushuang didn't want to offend him unless necessary. The next target, East Royal Sanctuary, Sir God Lingu, Jian Wushuang's eyes filled with murderous intention. Very soon, a god-killer descended in East Royal Sanctuary. In the vast void, Sword Emperor, spare me and I guarantee that I wouldn't be hostile towards Lineage of Star. A gray-robed, cold-looking woman fled ahead. As she ran, she shouted, I'm sorry. Since you slaughtered countless cultivators in a city of Star Land to take revenge, the resentment between Lineage of Star and you can't be resolved. You have to die. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate. He performed secret skill of dragon blood and caught up to Sir God Lingu. He then killed her straight away with a thunderous method. When Jian Wushuang had killed Sir God Xingxiang and Sir God Qisha previously, he had been so quick that the two Sir Gods didn't even have a chance to send any messages. Plus, Sir God Song Yu had appreciated Jian Wushuang's mercy and hadn't spread the news. But then, Jian Wushuang had killed Sir God Lingu before everyone's eyes. The news naturally spread. In an instant, the entire Sanctuary Alliance shook because of the name Sword Emperor once again. Chapter 1825 Target, Emperor God. Massacre. Jian Wushuang had gone on a crazy massacre. For the 16 Almighties on the name list, from the closest to the furthest, and from the earliest Sir God Xingxiang to Sir God Lingu, Jian Wushuang had gone to find all of them personally. In less than 100 years' time, Jian Wushuang had already found and killed 5 of those Almighties. In no time, the Sanctuary Alliance was in an uproar. It's too frightening. This Jian Wushuang is really a lunatic. In less than 100 years' time, he has killed a total of 7 Sir Gods. If he were to continue his massacre at such a speed, all the Sir Gods in the eternal chaotic world would be killed by him in a split second. Among those 7 Sir Gods, 5 of them had huge grudges against the Lineage of Star, and they were his targets. As for the other 2 people, they were killed by him as they obstructed him during his massacre. It is also very normal for him to kill his own enemies since he is so powerful. However, I am only curious as to what the Lineage of Star is trying to do. According to what I know, it's not just Jian Wushuang alone. The other two almighties of the lineage of Star have also taken action, and their targets are real gods who have huge grudges against the lineage of Star. The lineage of Star has made enemies out of many people, and it is not considered a big matter for them to get rid of some of them. However, their movements this time around are too big. In particular, Jian Wushuang has made it clear that he wanted to kill all the experts in the eternal chaotic world who have a huge grudge against the lineage of Star. The experts in all the powerhouses were all having a discussion, and they were trying to figure out the intentions of the lineage of Star. Their guesses were that the lineage of Star had done such things to either instill fear in everyone or to raise the reputation of Jian Wushuang. However, no one would direct their thinking toward the Star Palace Master. At the same time that the Sanctuary Alliance was in an uproar, an ancient, huge silver spaceship descended upon a holy kingdom. That Emperor God Jin Ming stays in this holy kingdom. As Jian Wushuang stood on the spaceship and looked at the holy kingdom in front of him, he laughed indifferently. Out of the 16 almighties in the name list, 14 of them were Sir Gods, while the remaining 2 were Emperor Gods. For Jian Wushuang's massacre for the lineage of Star, all the targets that he had looked for so far were not determined by their abilities. Instead, all of them were determined by the distance between him and them. Previously, he had already killed 5 Sir Gods in the name list. At that time, it was the 6th person, and this person was an Emperor God. Emperor God Jinming is ranked 83rd in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, and he can be said to be at the bottom of the Emperor Gods. However, even though he is at the bottom, he is still a genuine Emperor God expert in the end, Jian Wushuang murmured. Master, do you need me to do it? Jian Yi, who was at the side, said with respect. No need. Jian Wushuang shook his head. You are a great trump card of mine, and you must not expose yourself unless it is really necessary. Moreover, it's just Emperor God Jinming, and I am not worried at all. With absolute confidence, Jian Wushuang activated the spaceship and entered the Holy Kingdom right away. In no time, Jian Wushuang came to a vast land that was floating in the air. Emperor God Jinming, the powerful god power that his ice-cold voice contained burst forth instantly. The vast land was the place where the capital of a holy kingdom was, and there were countless experts, which was inclusive of real gods in it. However, at that time, under the pressure of Jian Wushuang's god power, these experts started to shiver in succession as they were terrified and filled with grief. Humph! All of a sudden, a cold snort which contained a tremendous amount of god power as well could be heard, and it was comparable to Jian Wushuang's god power. After that, a golden-robed, stalwart man rose high into the air slowly, and he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in a jiffy. As expected, Jian Wushuang, you have really come. Emperor God Jinming's eyes were glowing brilliantly with golden light, and he was staring at Jian Wushuang. Why, Emperor God Jinming seems to know that I will be coming? Jian Wushuang laughed. For your journey of massacre from the lineage of Star to here, you have killed a total of 7 Sir Gods. Among the 7 Sir Gods, 5 of them had huge grudges with your lineage of Star. As for the remaining 2 of them, they were killed by you since they obstructed you. Hence, it is obvious that your target is to kill some enemies of the lineage of Star. Moreover, the grudge between me and your lineage of Star will not end without death. Thus, how is it possible for you to let me off? Emperor God Jinming's voice was ice-cold. It's good that you know Jian Wushuang had an ice-cold expression. Emperor God Jinming, do you want to kill yourself, or do you want me to kill you personally? Kill myself? You are not worthy for me to do that, Emperor God Jinming sneered. Jian Wushuang, 6,000 years ago, you were ranked 61st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Now, after another 6,000 years, your abilities have risen greatly again, and you probably have the fighting capabilities of the top 50 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Therefore, you are definitely very close to the peak of an Emperor God. For a one-to-one battle, I would naturally not be your opponent. However, since I know that you will come to my doorstep, how could I not make any preparations at all? Oh, Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank. As soon as Emperor God Jin Ming's voice left his mouth, swoosh! A flittering light appeared from the void behind, and it appeared beside Emperor God Jin Ming instantly. It then stood side by side with Emperor God Jin Ming, and it was not weaker than Emperor God Jin Ming in the slightest bit. Moreover, it also emitted an aura that was slightly stronger than Emperor God Jin Ming. Upon seeing the person who had come, Jian Wushuang frowned. You are Emperor God Fan Yuan, who is ranked 61st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Emperor God Fan Yuan was an extremely powerful expert who traveled alone. More than 6,000 years ago, he had been ranked 61st on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, after Jian Wushuang had become famous from his battle, he had been pushed downward to the 62nd rank. Sword Emperor, this is our first time meeting one another, and it's nice to meet you, Emperor God Fan Yuan laughed. Why? Could it be you also want to take advantage of this battle for your own personal gain? Jian Wushuang's expression did not change in the slightest. Ha ha, Jian Wushuang, you might not know that Fan Yuan and I have always been extremely good friends. This time around, since I know that you will come to my doorstep, I naturally got him to lend me a hand. Although your abilities are strong, with Fan Yuan and I, two Emperor Gods, teaming up, you probably wouldn't be able to overpower us. Moreover, you will not be able to do anything to Fan Yuan alone. Emperor God Jin Ming laughed coldly. Is that so? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. Sword Emperor, for your battle with Emperor God Tian Shao more than 6,000 years ago, your abilities are indeed not too bad, and it is not surprising for the Sanctuary Alliance to place you in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Moreover, it is too much for them to give you the 61st ranking, which is before me. You should know that I, Fan Yuan, have not fought in front of many people for many years. Thus, my real abilities will not be as simple as what the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list has described. Emperor God Fan Yuan shouted with a low voice. Everyone had an air of arrogance. Similarly, Emperor God Fan Yuan had one as well. Moreover, after reaching a level like his, one would pay more attention to their prestige. Jian Wushuang was merely a real god who had trained for a short number of years. However, his ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list was actually higher than his. How could he contend with that?